When there's nothing left but the fire in my chest and the air that fills my lungs, I'll hold my tears and trade my ears for a glimpse at kingdom come. On the other side of misery, there's a world we long to see. The strife we share will take us there to relief and sovereignty. Oh my God, we'll have our home again. By God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home. In our own towns, we're foreigners now. Our names are spat and cursed. The headline smack of another attack, not the last and not the worst. Oh, my fathers, they look down on me. I wonder what they feel to see their noble sons driven down beneath a coward's heel. Oh, my God, we'll have our home again. By God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home. The road is dark, the way is lost. My eyes, they strain to see. I struggle forth to find a friend to light the way for me. Oh, brothers, can you hear my voice, or am I all alone? If there's no fire to guide my way, then I will start my own. Oh, my God, we'll have our home again. By God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home. Oh, by God, we'll have our home again. By God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home.
Dangerous non-white men, just a fiction, and Facebook to permit anti-whiteism. We'll look under the hood over the course of this gathering. We will chat for about 10 to 15 minutes with the one and only, the great Brand Danger, who's going to give us an excellent update on the epic School of the West. Your comments and calls, of course. And we will do another joke for the adults in the room this week. So all of you adult children, please cover up your ears. A patient visits his doctor and says, "Doc, at Thanksgiving I made a Freudian slip. I was having dinner with my mother-in-law and I wanted to say, would you please pass the butter? But instead I said, you silly bitch, you've ruined my life." It is 5 p.m. in Washington, D.C., 7 a.m., I think, in Sydney, 10 in London, and midnight in Moscow, and we are going free. A wonderful Sunday evening, Monday morning to every single one of you. What a glorious Sunday it's been. I've just spent the past 2 hours talking with great friends over there in the PA Book Club, talking about Crucible. You should check it out if you haven't seen it yet or you don't know much about Crucible. You'll actually learn quite a little bit. If you had some misconceptions probably about the book and that it was going to be sort of pedantic, I think is what Mark anticipated. He ended up saying that he read more at his first reading of the book than he had any other book in his adult life, and normally finds reading to be, as most of us, a bit of a chore, and but couldn't put the book down, and for some various reasons that we discuss. And that was a big honor, and I was glad and delighted to have been asked, and it meant a lot to me. A lot of you were there, and thank you for being there. I appreciate it. It is another we should have is Entropy up? No, it's not. So you will be able to jump over to Entropy and ask questions and make comments to me, challenge me, ask for some elucidation on something if you need it, or give me some if I need it. And you may also financially gift over there. You can financially gift on Cash App as well. The URLs for both are in the description below. You may also financially gift by way of cryptocurrency. And you may do that at nowhiteguilt.org and click on the financial gift tab, and you will see the links there. And you will also find a snail mail address if you wish to reach out to me there. I mentioned this midweek when we did the roll-in, but I want to mention it again because we're going to have more folks together here at the gathering on Sunday. And that is that over the course of the gathering last week, I was unaware that it happened during the gathering, but we received a financial gift of $1,000 from a anonymous donor. So a great big thank you. Please let's get a big raucous round of emojis once again for that financial contributor, a great champion in service to White Wellbeing, obviously celebrating the great successes we've had. A person who is obviously intelligent enough to see that being able to change the language so that concepts are used, things that are easily identifiable by our brothers and sisters around the world, and then immediately taken up and employed for their own betterment, for their own empowerment, is the kind of thing that then lays the groundwork for a different societal conversation, a conversation that when anti-whites want to speak with us, when they want us to lower our guard, which anti-whiteism, white guilting us, is all about getting us to lower our guard. And when they want to do that, they're going to have to do it in a new context, a new story that we create. Today, the context that we live in, this anti-white narrative, is not one in which something like an ethno-state or anything of the sort is possible. But with changing contexts, more things become possible in the world. We can recapture more and more of our destiny, beginning with ourselves and how we view ourselves. And that really is in Crucible, you'll find that's one of the big differences that you see in today, the literature today, the fiction, nonfiction of today, the news stories of today, versus what we usually have to share. And that is that in the anti-white narrative, they endlessly will show you portrayals of anti-whites or innocent, like genuinely innocent non-white people, or genuinely innocent people who believe themselves to be a part of some sort of self-professed victim group. They go into their sadness, they go into their private space, and they cry, and their hearts bleed over how the world is so mean to them. Well, the reality is that the world is not so mean to them. The world is so mean to us, particularly our young white males, our white little boys. And I demonstrate in Crucible the reality of that by sharing with you, inviting you into my life and what that was like. And it was very difficult and embarrassing for me to make the decision that I was going to have to share what I was, how I was frightened, how I had nightmares, how I cried at the ages of 11 to 13, trying to handle and deal with that world, that anti-white environment where I was labeled as some sort of monster with decades of evil behavior behind me when I was 11 years old. And I was merely asking for white people to be able to have the same privilege of being proud of who we are, for white people to not be discriminated against and persecuted. That was my sin. And that's how I figured out the anti-whites weren't these people that they named themselves to be, that in fact they were anti-white and that their motivation was to inflict injury on us. So another big debt of gratitude to the anonymous financial gifter of $1,000 last week. And I will have that financial gifter know, and anybody else out there who's thinking, hey, I want to go drop 1,000 leaflets, or hey, I want to go drop $1,000, or hey, I want to go drop 1,000 minutes on whatever it might be in service to white well-being. We have had more info coming in. Mark Dice has now used Antiwhitism by writing it on his Gab account. And we have some other big content producers that are beginning to use anti-white, and we're going to be talking about some of that today. It is being spread. The anti-whites are using it themselves. People who don't want to be victimized, who are the victims, white people, they're using it. Non-white people who love white people, who just are honorable people, who don't want to see white people victimized anymore, they are using it. Anti-white, anti-whiteism, Western kind, white erasure, anti-white narrative. The news is the anti-white narrative, every bit of it. Remember that, folks. 5 key concepts there. You can introduce far more, and you can do a great amount of, you could change the world. Remember, we had some folks who have been very angry over this past week because of Waukesha and seeing what's happening. Of course, the anti-whites are coming out and saying it has nothing to do with race. It was anything other than race. He's not trying to run white people down in their cars. I don't know what the truth is. People can speculate. It sure does seem a certain way. I'm sure CNN will set the record straight. But the bottom line is that we see a lot of people who have gotten very, very angry over what happened in Waukesha, and rightly so. Rightly so, especially if you believe that this guy, according to his supposed, people are claiming that he made anti-white statements and that he called white people the enemy and all of this sort of stuff. People are speculating about the connection to Kyle Rittenhouse, or if there is a connection or not. But if you're one of the people who believe that, and then this individual who might be anti-white, as seen by these folks as an anti-white monster, decides that he's going to drive out to the whitest area in town, and he's going to drive children down and the senior citizens down. He's going to mow them down, and they get furious over that. And you should be furious. But what is the right response to that? The right response is not to march around your house and talk about how mad you are. The right response is not to walk around your house and suddenly use a bunch of curse words and racial epithets and make threats to the air that you're never carrying out. Make threats about what should happen in the world that is never going to be done. The right thing to do in that moment is to get on your computer and to, if you're not good at putting together a leaflet, you can jump on nowhiteguilt.org, and we'll put more up there for you. Print out 1,000 of those. And then I'll tell you what, if you're angry enough, you won't be tired by the end of that 1,000 leaflets, and you will have actually done something to change the world. All of that stewing, all of that pacing around the house in the yard and going and chopping wood or whatever it might be is just eating you up inside. Instead, use the rage, use the blood on those streets to make a difference in the world. That's the way I have endeavored my whole life to be effective for white well-being. And if you do that too, we will change the world. Let's jump right into this. And this first story we have here, why don't we go right to what we let off with? There's nothing more frightening in America today than angry white men, says CNN. And I want to start off by saying right away, white women, you're included. You know, they excluded you from the criticism and the persecution and the exploitation for a very long time. And far too many of you said, okay, I'm good with that. I'll adopt anti-whiteism. I will with you wage war on white man. I will with you wage war on the white family. I will with you wage war on white children. How many white women were delighted with the take your daughter to work day in the United States, compared to how many white women were outraged that said, how dare you exclude our little boys? How dare you invite this idea, this anti-white concept of dividing the white family? You know who you were. You remember those days when they came out with Take Your Daughter to School Day. So white women, increasingly, we're seeing that you now are suffering anti-whiteism as well. They don't want you at the workplace. But why? Because they don't need you anymore. They hated you all along. Trust me, they hated you when you were getting to go to bed with all of their men. They really hated you then. But trust me, they hated you as much then as they hate you today. They want the men, biological males, or started off biologically male, but they think they're female. They want them in your sports kicking your ass. And I think it's a good thing. I think they should be there kicking your ass. I don't think we should have these safe spaces for white women anymore, because white women have demonstrated over the decades now that they will, not every single one of them, the white women who are here are true champions, but they've demonstrated that the vast majority of them will happily adopt anti-whiteism if it gets them the executive level job, if it gets them the higher paying job, if it gets them whatever, just rewards. And then you see these white women in their lives. And what do? Men, I was just talking the other day about men. I know a truck driver that is essentially close enough to the family to be an uncle. And he was a truck driver his whole life, drove 10-wheelers, drove some 18-wheelers, but not much, mostly just 10-wheelers, and didn't have a family. Didn't end up with a wife, wanted one, but wasn't able to get one, and ended up though with just that salary becoming a millionaire, not by investing, not by buying something that ended up going through the roof and then he sold. No, he just was a man, a white man. He bought and then put most of that money in the bank. I mean, earned and then put most of that money in the bank. Wasn't buying. We see what happens with so many of the white women today who end up with these executive six-figure jobs that were given them because they were female. We see that they waste every single penny. Every dollar goes out the door. It just pops into the purse and goes out the other side. They're spending on everything. Their dogs live better lives. These women have dogs that live better lives than a huge swath of our population, working males, especially those who end up not being able to find a mate because of how corrosive anti-whiteism has been on dating and on the female mindset that she has to dominate the relationship. And with the power that she was given socially by white men a very long time ago, and with the power that she was given by white men a long time ago politically, and therefore in the judicial system, she very easily is able to dominate that relationship and do whatever she wants with it. That's the main driver behind the destruction of the white family. And so I want white women to know, when CNN and the anti-whites at CNN, and of course everything they say is true, when they're talking about angry white men, they're talking about you too. They're hating you too. They're not leaving you out anymore. So remember that. And when you do come back to us, when you come back and you say, oh my God, you've got to do something. They're all outside the house. You know, I can't go down in town and shop anymore and spend my six-figure salary like there's no tomorrow. When you come running back to us, you better come back with some humility, because we don't forget. It was too short ago that it was you all were saying, well, screw you. You're just holding society back from all of its progress. So remember that. I recollect that pretty little white woman in Loudoun County, the county beside mine, who was bawling her eyes out when she was having to quit from her teaching job in that county because they were finally naming white women as a problem in the teaching environment. All of those years prior, in fact, she said at that lectern before she started bawling that she celebrated and loved how increasingly diverse her classroom was. So in other words, how fewer white little boys there were in that room. White little girls too, but primarily white little boys in that room. She just loved how diverse it. But now she had to go to this anti-white obedience training, and it said white women too, and now she's crying her little eyes out. I don't have sympathy for her unless she turns around and says that she was wrong all along by being anti-white. Can she have forgiveness? I'll tell you what, you can have forgiveness when you start behaving like a woman of the West. Then white men will decide whether or not we will protect you from the world that you, primarily, white men helped as well, without question, but majority women of our race helped to create this anti-white environment. So now you have articles like this in CNN. Nothing more frightening in America today than angry white men. And don't do this. Don't hear that title and say, damn right, they should be afraid. If you're a guy and you're saying that, go back to playing with your Tonka trucks. Go back to the nursery room and play trucks and play G.I. Joe and whatever, because you never became an adult. There's nothing scary about you. You can't do anything in this world. You could barely get a job. You could barely get a job. Don't tell me how scary you are. Don't give me this wrath of the awakened Saxon BS, because you are held, the woman in your life has got you by the short hairs, and you do exactly what she tells you to do. You behave perfectly. You go to work and your head is down and you obey everybody around you. You bite your lip, you bite your tongue every time somebody says something negative. So don't tell me about how dangerous you are. You're just a child pretending to be dangerous. There's nothing dangerous about you. The only thing that could be dangerous is if you decide to go free. Because having a moral matrix that gives you the strength to be a hero that can do things like physically defend himself, that is true power. CNN, the brute, the buck, and of course, the thug. Those are just some of the names for a racial stereotype that has haunted the collective imagination of white America since the nation's inception. So here we go with this. What is this? Blake? Johnny Blake. Blake is blank because he's going to have to reach back into time, reach back into the past, into the lives of people who aren't alive anymore, supposed victimizers who were white who aren't alive anymore, and supposed victims who are non-white who aren't alive anymore. And he's going to use that to tell you that you need to lower your defenses, you see? So this is where the moral argument comes in. This is why you have to have the moral matrix. You have to have the moral high ground, because he's going to tell you it's the moral thing to do to lower your guard and allow yourself to be victimized by the anti-whites. That's the only way they can victimize us. You don't like stern words, then you better grow up fast. I can talk to teenagers like this and they're able to get it. So if you're an adult and you're having a hard time, then you better go look in the mirror, see your therapist. So Blank Blake types on, the specter of the angry black man has been invoked in politics and popular culture to convince white folks that a black man is coming to get them and their daughters. I'm going to watch now. Let's see. I've not read any of these. So let's see if he says black man. And then when we get to whites, if he says white man. My money, because I've been doing this, because reason, logic, intelligence, evidence, because I've been doing this, it is on him not referring to us in the body of the article as men. But we'll see. Maybe he does. It's the person who types the article is not the person who names the article. So the angry white man at the top was someone else. We'll see though about Blank Blake. Okay, I've seen viral video, and first of all, I got to speak to that. Total hogwash. The anti-white narrative has dominated our lives, our parents' lives, our grandparents' lives, and even their grandparents' lives. There is no theme in America that there are that in movies and in sitcoms and in the books you read and everywhere you look, there is just the theme. It's running through. It's like pizza in America and hot dogs and barbecues, and the black males are coming to get you. That is total Bravo Sierra. That is not part of America. In fact, what is part of America? The fact that CNN is a worldwide institution, and in all of the countries that CNN operates, it can tell the population, and has been able to tell the population since its inception, and entities bigger than CNN doing it before them, that the big problem, the big danger is white males, right? That is the reality. So this is what confronts people when they're forced to live by the anti-white narrative, which is the inverse of the reality that we then have to go live. We suffer a psychological trauma as a consequence of the dichotomy of the reality that we live in and the fiction that we're forced to believe, we're forced to at least say is reality. Well, all of these black guys, they have to suffer under this burden of this societal notion that they're just, everybody's thinking about them all the time. And talk about this idea about being, not being able to think solipsistically, not being able to think beyond yourself. It's just everything's about them. And yet you have black males that are what? Let's say at most 6% of the nation's population. And then you have what percentage of them, and this is just true for all races, that there's going to be a certain percentage that are either incarcerated, coming out of incarceration, or going into incarceration, or hiding from law enforcement. Same thing holds true for all races. So you have about 6% of the population are black males. Then you have a certain percentage of them are somewhere in the process of the justice system. And then how often do you see black males? 100% of the time. You can't turn on a TV, look at a billboard, drive down the street, walk down the street, fall asleep. You can't see a movie, a TV show. You can't pick up a book. You can't look at a magazine. You can't go to a magazine rack. You can't go anywhere without seeing black males hired to be performers, to be models, to be spokesmen, you could turn on motocross right now and it have nothing but 100% white people in the crowds, nothing but 100% white people participating on those dirt bikes, riding up and down and around and doing the tabletop and everything else they do there. 100% Confederate flags even out there. And what's going to happen? You're going to have one of the announcers or two of the announcers are going to be black males. They know nothing about motocross, but they'll be told by somebody just before going on air what to say, and they'll have something written off to the side. And it's not to say that no black males. There's certainly black males out there that are country folk. They love motocross and that sort of thing, but they're not the ones that they put out there on the announcer on the television for you to have to see. So this tiny part of the population, they are everywhere. And what are they portrayed as? They're portrayed as Cliff Huxtable. They're portrayed as God himself. Everywhere you look, they are portrayed as overachievers, as more intelligent, as better at everything. That's the reality that the black male population has to live with across the entire West, not what this guy is saying here, speaking from one of the biggest organs on planet Earth, a sphincter, CNN. I've seen viral videos of innocent black men losing their lives because of this stereotype, which only exists in your head. I've watched white people lock their car doors or clutch their purses when men who look like me approach. Okay, so blank Blake is black. We figured, or at least he claims he is. We have this phenomenon where you have so many black people out there. You know, there's such a benefit to being white in the West that everybody who has any non-white in them, no matter how white they look, they claim to be non-white. One would think that there must be some sort of benefit to claiming that you're non-white and some sort of detriment to being white based on the decisions of the people who have any non-white in them. So I wonder exactly what percentage of blank Blake is black. It's becoming a tongue twister. I guess we all have those, all us white folks have those storybook rhymes in our minds. Okay, clutch their purses. He says, I've been racially profiled. How many guys out there, white guys out there, have been at the gym, they walk up to a piece of equipment, a woman who's on a piece of equipment beside you, get up and immediately leave? How many white guys out there have walked into a store and had a woman look at you, and because she just felt a bad vibe from you, maybe you're coming from work, you're dirty or whatever, she moves her purse to the other side? Every single one of us. Every single time. How many times have you pulled up? I grew up, pretty lower middle class, had beat up old pickup truck, pull up at with my father, pull up at a 7-Eleven or what have you, and get out of the truck, and the people in the cars beside you, even non-white people, lock their doors back when you could see the door getting locked. It's happened to every single one of us. But when you're a black guy, according to blank Blake, black Blake, he's in tears over this because it has made his life infinitely worse. I'm sure his job at CNN is six figures, and he probably spends those dollars on that $60,000 Audi, and it just tears are dropping every time another dollar falls out of his pocket. It's part of the psychological tax you pay for being a black man in America. What a load of Bravo Sierra. It's part of, see, you don't debate these people in their narrative. It's because it's nothing but lies. Learning to accept that you are seen by many as public enemy number one. Absolutely not the case. Absolutely not the case. If you go, if white people or anybody else, they go to a nice area and there are black people or any other non-white people, and they are comporting themselves like normal citizens of your society, and they're like, well, let me hold the door open for you. Let me thank you for holding the door open for me. And they're dressed like normal, of that range of what you would see as normality in society. No one thinks another thought. No one. But when you're dressed up like you're in a shoot 'em up gangster video, you kind of get a different response. It's kind of like when white people dress up, white people who are anti-white and they dress up as Antifa, they get a different response. But they don't get to say it's because of their race. Only Black Blank Blake does. But as I've watched 3 separate trials about white male violence. Did he say anything else? Is that the first time? I think that's the first time. We got to keep rolling. So he said male. So I would have won that bet. Violence unfold across the U.S. these past few weeks. The Kyle Rittenhouse trial, the Ahmaud Arbery death trial, and the civil case against organizers of the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. I've come to a sobering conclusion, he types away. As he probably pauses to text his white girlfriend about how hard it is to be a black man in America, and then cashes another check, and then gets a call from his agent that he's going, oh, I do get to be in the Crest commercial. Awesome. How much? $70,000, and it's going to be 6 hours of work. Okay. His conclusion, Black Blank Blake, there's nothing more frightening in America today than an angry white man. Well, he did use man there. We'll see if he uses it again. Unless the editor fixed it so that it would go with the title. It's not the rest. So this guy has concluded that there is nothing more frightening in America today than an. So what was it about? Now, Charlottesville was a bunch of people. That could have been something glorious. I'm not gonna second guess after the fact. Armchair, quarterback this thing on a Monday. But I will say what I was saying not to do for decades, they did. And then they suffered the consequence, as they always suffer the consequence. And I will continue to say not to behave in such ways, continue to not hate on other races, continue to love our people, continue to write ourselves in as a hero in our own story. I will continue to do that. So a lot of people said really dumb things and behaved in really dumb, and were dumb people. They were dumb people. I mean, face it, we make mistakes. I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. They made mistakes. You don't resist anti-whiteism the way that they resist anti-whiteism. As a fool led around by the nose or a hand up your rear by the anti-whites. You resisted by being a hero in our story. And we're writing that story. You could be a part. I want you to be a part. Drop all that other garbage and go free with us. And you can be a hero in our story. You'll be remembered. Maybe even a statue to you. But we'll set Charlottesville aside because they played into Black Blank Blake's story perfectly, didn't they? I mean, Black Blank Blake could actually say to them, these were neo-Nazis. These were white supremacists. He can actually say that about all of those people. So they empowered Black Blank Blake, whereas I disempower him by not being in his story. Now, we talk about the other cases here. How did those come about? Well, those were actually the guys that followed the the guy who was just jogging. He was just jogging. The guys who fought, very dumb thing to do. I get it. You get fed up. You know, I was talking to people I really care about, and they're like, well, about Kyle Rittenhouse, he has every right to defend himself. He has every right to. And as I said, you're talking about a perfect world. I agree, in a perfect world, in Western civilization, the way it should work, but I'm talking about the way it does work. So we could sit around all day long and talk about how it should be, but that's a waste of time. We should be talking about how it is. Those guys should have never followed the black guy who was merely jogging down the street with a TV set or whatever he was carrying, or that was a different story. But whatever he was jogging with, they should have maybe got photographs of him. And maybe if they wanted to pull up beside me, hey, we just want to get a face shot. Have a nice day. And then, nothing's going to happen because we live in an anti-white world, but you can use that to do what? Share the concepts, right? Kyle should have never gone down there, and he should have passed out instead, should have distributed 5,000 leaflets for going free, and he would have done an infinite amount of good. Heart goes out to all of these people, all of these families. I hate that this happened to them. I want their well-being more than everybody who's crying about their well-being now. How do you know? What's the evidence of that? Is it just words coming out of my mouth? No, it's the fact that time and again, I put myself out there to be shot at, metaphorically, so far, fortunately, but plenty of death threats from people who are supposedly in the white sympathetic sphere. I put myself out there time and again saying, don't do this. It's going to end up bad. And I get attacked for it. So that is the evidence. I wouldn't put myself out there, and I wouldn't subject myself to that if I didn't care more for these people, the guys in the truck, the kid out in the city, if I didn't care more for them than the people who now crying the crocodile tears about how they should be treated differently. It should be differently. Well, good for the should. I mean, could you imagine going into Neil Armstrong, his office, or Henry Ford's office? Could you imagine going to these people and just saying, well, it should be, it should be a certain way. It should be. They would say, get out. Get out. We're dealing with reality. We are pragmatic people. And when we give up these fanciful ideas and we focus on the pragmatic like we do here, we achieve the unachievable. So we're going to keep rolling here with this author. It's not the radical, it's not the, he puts in quotes, radical Islamic terrorist that I fear the most. So he doesn't even believe there's such a thing as a radical Islamic terrorist because he put it in those quotes. Nor is it the brown immigrant or the fiery Black Lives Matter protester. That's kind of funny. Is it really say fiery? Because you know that Black Blank Blake did not mean the pun there. You know he didn't. What an absolute dumbass. What a monumental dumbass. The fiery, what he meant was the passionate. They're just passionate. It's not that they're, but of course, fire seems to follow them when they have their passionate events. What a moron. Can you believe he's paid 6 figures? Or whatever. And this is what the white man has to deal with in the world. You look around and you're like, my God, all of these positions, all these people driving around in these expensive vehicles and in the big McMansions and everything, they are dumb as rocks. And you have to look at that and you have to say, I know 100 ways to do X better than that and 200 ways to do Y better than that. But I'm the guy in the car that's passed 4 times down. I'm the 4th owner of the piece of junk living in a shack. Why is that? Well, because of anti-whiteism, and because for decade after decade, white women have joined in attacking me and the rest of white males so that the white race could be brought down to the state that we have now found ourselves. So it's not the Islamic terror. It's not the fiery black. I swear to you, he actually wrote fiery. I am not joking. Or whatever the latest boogeyman is that some politician tells me I should dread. It's encountering an armed white man in public who has been inspired by the white men on trial in these 3 cases. So where does he encounter white males who are armed in public? You hear the crickets? Nowhere. Black Blank Blake does not encounter armed white male, angry white males in public anywhere. Although there are 2 guys in Chicago that he can hire to have come attack him with MAGA hats on if he needs that to happen. But having said that, he doesn't encounter angry white males with guns anywhere. That's not happening. But where does it happen? Why is it that he's able to write something like that? Because people believe it happens. And I'm not talking about these cases here. Why do they believe it happens? Because it happens everywhere in fiction. And the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between fiction and reality. And the subconscious mind is the mind that runs your life the vast majority of the time. And it is particularly the mind that people will defer to if it confirms a bias. Let us continue. The U.S. legacy of white male violence. I don't know. We're at almost at the 45-minute mark. Maybe I'll quickly jump through a little bit more and then we'll get on to the next story. It's not suggesting we start racially. Oh, he says, I'm not suggesting we start racially profiling white men. This is how the anti-whites always work. And then you find out that, oh, indeed, you do want to racially profile white males. So let's see where he goes. I don't know if we have time to get through the whole article, but he absolutely does. You know, that's the lie the liar tells you at the beginning of the lie. The vast majority of white men are no menace to society, of course, as long as they're anti-white, is what he's saying. Countless white men swallowed tear gas and braved rubber bullets while marching with demonstrators during last year's protests over the murder of George Floyd. So there you have it. The white ones who are anti-white, according to Black Blank Blake, are good. If you're not anti-white, you're not good. You're one of those angry ones that should be profiled. And they are already profiling white. We know that. Okay, he goes on there. Let's see. There's nothing inherently violent. Okay, but recent events convinced me to put another character on trial. A vision of white masculinity that allows some white men to feel as if they, quote, can rule and brutalize without consequence. What horseshit. There absolutely is nothing like that whatsoever. Pure fiction. This angry white man has been a major character throughout U.S. history. So you actually see here, this is maybe a beautiful place to stop on this CNN article by Black Blank Blake, because you actually see what he's doing. He's creating a fictional character for you to incorporate into the anti-white. Essentially, he's not creating, but he's in his article, he's creating it. On the larger macro scale, he's bolstering it. He's saying it's out there. It's something you have to deal with. What? You never had to actually experience? Well, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. How dare you share your actual experiences when we're talking about things here that are invisible and everywhere. This angry white man has been a major character throughout U.S. history. He gave the country slavery, the slaughter of Native Americans, They weren't warring against each other and against whites. And whites were just another tribe warring there as well. No, it was the white people just slaughtering. And Jim Crow laws. His anger also helped fuel the January 6th insurrection, as he's calling Patriots Day, where the patriot lost his innocence. I want to quickly ask, where are those decamillion, centimillion white people who have a decent bone in their body? I know powerful people watch the work that we're doing here. if you decide to start funding what I'm doing, we will change the context in what in historic terms will be considered the blink of an eye. We could have webzines. We could have everything under the sun. We could have leafleting campaigns. We already have a host of people that could be put on a payroll. Where are you? Because if what we are doing here with Going Free and the geniuses that we have assembled here are financially backed, because the world moves on dollars, if we are financially backed by people with the ability to do that, instead of wasting your money on politicians, on another Republican, and another Republican, another false promises, folks, you wouldn't believe how much money they give, or maybe you do. If they were to put some of that money here, we could change the world in the blink of an eye. Why? Because we know what the anti-whites are up to. We have the remedy to anti-whiteism that will therefore preserve all the things that these folks care about: freedom of speech, actual rule of law. The United States, Canada, Australia, all of these places could be preserved. All of these places could be saved, but they're not going to be saved if you keep investing in Republicans, or if you keep investing in the right of center politicians, because they're garbage, because they're part of that system. Stop being such blinkered imbeciles. You have no idea how dumb you look in your Rolls Royces, pulling to and from your castle homes and giving those big checks to Republicans and other right of center politicians. You look like idiots to everybody who is lacking the one thing that you have, and that is money, because we're not anywhere near close as dumb as you are. You are benighted and blinkered and idiotic. Stop financing Republicans. Stop it. Finance work like this that is changing the world on less than a shoestring budget. I just spelled out all along, and I just spelled it out during the course of reading this, exactly what they're doing. And then this so-called author, so-called journalist, said exactly what I was saying he was going to do. And this happens every single time. All right, let me move on because we're already at the 49-minute mark. Check this out. Facebook, as you know, run by just nothing but a bunch of angels you find in the tech community. Nothing but angels at the top. So when they say, just trust us, we're going to make it fair for everybody, you can trust them because they all have halos. I mean, maybe they're inverted halos and their wings are leather and they have hooves for feet, but they were angels at some point, apparently. We know why Facebook decided to change its race-blind hate speech detection algorithm last year to allow more anti-white hatred. The Washington Post reported last week that an April 2020 document said roughly 90% of hate speech subject to content takedowns were statements of contempt, inferiority, and disgust directed at white people and men. And of course, the men is going to be white males because nobody's insulting black men. I mean, could you imagine? Could you imagine an anti-white America specifically saying, oh, this Asian male or this Hispanic male, they're the problem? Could you imagine? No, it's just white people. 90. So not 89, not 91, but 90. Do you understand? 90% of the what could be classified by their algorithm as hate speech, so speech identifying a group and saying the whole group is bad, directed at white people. So Facebook, because they are anti-white demons from the depths of hell, decided, whoa, we've got to allow all the anti-white speech. That's totally legitimate. You know, it's kind of like in medicine where they came up with this you're writing more and more software to be able to diagnose patients. And then the software, this was just months ago. Maybe somebody can pull it up. The software began noticing a difference in race. And the people who created it said, oh my God, we have to stop it from doing that. That is the world we're living in. That's a reality that we have to deal with. So you understand then what's the motivation of an anti-white. That's not some fringe dweller, like a Republican would tell you, oh, that's just some fringe dweller. His opinion is just irrelevant. And they say that so that they can continue to stay in office. This is not a fringe dweller writing the software for diagnosing medical conditions. It's not fringe dwellers that occupy all of big tech. No, these people are the core of anti-white. This is the power structure in the West. They viewed this as a failure of the system because white people are supposed to be the targets of all hate. And this is coming from a outlet called Information Liberation. So anything said here is going to be subject to CNN. So we'll wait until CNN gets back to us, or MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, yada, yada. So till they get back to us, right? But that's a very accurate point made by the author here. They viewed this as a failure of the system because white people are supposed to be targets of all. I would not use their word hate. It's not the worst thing, but of course, when we say hate, we help this author, help him get to the point that that he, instead of saying hate, he says victimization. So they're supposed to be the target of all anti-white victimization. Let's help him get to that point. The Washington Post, Facebook, okay, this is the link. Facebook spokesman Andy Stone, probably doesn't have any stones, defended the company's decisions around its hate speech, defended them. He slimily defended the company's decisions. He unctuously, he slithered up to the microphone and he defended the indefensible hate speech policies and how it conducted its relationship with the civil rights auditors, so swindle whites, hate white people, auditor. Is that what it is? Is that what you guys are doing now? So he slithered up and he said, look, we just, with his forked tongue licking the microphone, Stone said, this is why we do it. The worst of, quote, the worst of the worst project helped to show us what kinds of hate speech our technology was and was not effectively detecting and understanding what forms of it people believe to be the most insidious. I see, Stone. I see. So apparently he's been hit in the head with a stone because he thinks we're dumb enough. I mean, can you imagine this mountebank getting out there and he's just like, let me sell you some trash. We got this panacea. It's going to cure everything. You know, it's going to augment things you want augmented. It's going to reduce the size of things you want reduced. It's going to just cleanse your bowels and raise your forehead. It's going to do everything you want it to do. And by the way, we also have this algorithm that we program to capture what we refer to as identifying individuals in a group and then collectivizing blame for the whole group. And that was not a complete program. That was not a completed algorithm, even though we said it was. So now we're going to revamp it to be more in line with what people actually find in city. Well, he's actually telling a lot of truth there with his forked tongue, isn't he? And he taps on the floor with that hooved foot. He's revealing to you that Facebook is anti-white as all hell. And they want that, this is not going to go anywhere. It's all about race. It's all about victimizing white people. That's what it's about. Don't let conservatives, Republicans, if you're those things, fine, give it up. Come over to something that works. Don't let those leaders tell you otherwise. Don't let them say that, oh, it's about bail, or oh, it's just about turning the races against each other. All that to hell. It is about victimizing Western kind. It is obvious. We see it everywhere we look, and everybody who's denying it is either a coward and lying or anti-white and lying. It's one of two things, buddy or gal, and you can decide which it's going to be. And just stay out of spitting range, because the scum usually hurl spit when they can't reach you with their hands. He said on racial issues included policies such as banning white nationalist groups, prohibiting content promoting racial stereotypes, such as people wearing blackface or claims that Jews control the media, and reducing the prevalence of hate speech to 0.03% of content on the platform. So in other words, war on white people, and non-white people can do whatever they want. And white people who are anti-white can do whatever they want. These findings about the most objectionable content held up even among self-identified white conservatives that the market research team traveled to visit. What is this now? Held up even among, held up, I guess, like self-identified. So even conservatives were like, what's going on with this? Travel to visit in southern states. Facebook researchers sought out the views of white conservatives. Really? I mean, they probably, what did they do? Did they kill them all? Were they invited to sit on pitchforks in hell? I mean, how did they get them down there? In particular, because they wanted to overcome potential objections from the company's leadership, which was known to appease right-leaning viewpoints, two people said. Really? Appease? Yet racist posts against minorities never refer to non-white people as minorities. They're not minorities. You, my friend, are the minority. Weren't what Facebook's own hate speech detection algorithms were most commonly finding. The software, which the company introduced in 2015, was supposed to detect and automatically delete hate speech before users saw it. Publicly, the company said in 2019 that that's always a wonderful thing to hear and feel that we are doing our best. This is what the anti-whites at big techers, we are doing our best to prevent people from seeing anything that as anti-whites we condone, that as anti-whites we want. Now, why would they want to prevent people from hearing or seeing anything other than what the anti-whites want people to hear and see? Why? Because they want to control your mind. And with your control of your mind, the control of the narrative that you live inside of, they can do what? They can tell you that if you're going to resist us, you have to take the form of the most hated thing of all the people who would have sided with you. You have to take that form. They can also tell you that you're guilty as hell and you have to lower your guard and allow yourself to be victimized. That's what they can also do. They don't want you to hear from somebody like me, which is why they're just choking out of this YouTube channel and everything else I do. And that's why we have to go out and spread. That's why you've got to be, instead of marching around the house and cussing about what happened in Waukesha, you should be out distributing 1,000 leaflets on car windshields or at houses with nowhiteguilt.org, because the anti-whites are stopping us from reaching. We're not going to get there. Maybe you should go to the rich neighborhood and you could write a leaflet. Maybe we'll write one and put it up so you can use it that says, if you are anti-white, this isn't for you. If you are white or non-white and you're sick and tired of antiwhitism, nowhiteguilt.org. We need your help. The country is dying. Whichever country it is, America, Canada, Germany, Italy, it doesn't matter, Poland, whatever country it is, Sweden, Norway, whatever country it is, it's dying. If it's Western civilization, it's dying of the disease of anti-whiteism. We need your help. Stop funding right of center politics. They don't work. They will never work. They are the release valve in a system that is meant to suffocate us, a coffin that is already underground, that is meant to leave us with nothing to even pull the little flag on to let folks know that we've been buried alive. Nothing in there but a dark, dank, suffocating death. That's all right of center politics is meant to do. But this statistic hid and maybe in the future, maybe the thing I'll need to do to get some more attention for the work that we're doing is when one of these Republicans is up speaking somewhere, maybe I need to just run up and maybe put a pie in his face or her face or whatever, something filled with a lot of gooey fruit or something like this. And it's not like the Democrats will care in the U.S. I mean, maybe that's what needs to be done. And on the back of the pie, it'll say nowhiteguilt.org on the bottom of the, who knows? But I'm sick of these people. They're garbage. They are leading us to perdition, and they've been doing it for a long time. But this statistic had a serious problem that was obvious to researchers. The algorithm was aggressively detecting comments denigrating white people more than attacks on every other group, to the tune of 90%. Not 89, not 91, 90. According to several of the documents. One April 2020 document said roughly 90% of hate speech subject to content takedowns were statements of contempt inferiority, and disgust directed at white people and white men, though the time frame is unclear. Well, folks, that's the world you live in. We can make a difference in the world. You can adopt what's working, or you can continue to watch and be an observer of everything burning to the ground, or you can continue to play the antagonist, the villain in their story, and have that hand so firmly up your, every proctologist, he or she absolutely is envious of the anti-whites and how they are able to just puppet the hell out of so many people who would otherwise be magnificent or could be magnificent advocates for white well-being. He's just, the proctologists are like, you know what? I went into proctology, but those anti-whites, they really got a hand on things. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster, and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build 'em up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will, which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. If you And we are back, and I sent the link, Brent, to you. So I'll take a quick look at everything that's going on, and once we have Brant with us, we'll bring him forward. And let me see if everything is working okay. over here on Entropy. It's great to see you all. If you have any questions or comments about anything I was talking about, please do share, and we will speak to those. Sakis is back. Sakis is batting 1,000. I mean, just week after week. Great to see you, brother. $5 financial gift. $5 financial gift. It says, in the name of Mark Collett, Lord Towler, and Aunt Sally for having you on their book club to review Crucible. That's wonderful. Thank you very much for acknowledging them with that $5 financial gift. That was very kind of them to have me on. And I think we got to hopefully a lot of people who were having the same sort of experiences in life, and they hadn't heard about Crucible, and they didn't know that it could potentially help folks. So who is the screen is just, so tell me, folks, who is the troll in the chat? Somebody just write. You could write it over here in on Entropy. You could write it in the live chat on YouTube, and I will get to it. Yiz the Eunuch, $5 financial gift. Thank you so much, sweet dear lady. I'm driving all night for work. Yeah, she's working hard, folks. And then she goes out and does all this stuff for White Wellbeing. Amazing. So it won't be active in the chat, but I'll be listening and wanted to folk tithe. Thank you so much. Also, I sent you another email about an influencer success I had this week. Much love to you, Jason, and our wonderful community. Kip with a nice white heart emoji. God bless you, and thank you so much. I'll take a look at that. If not tonight, we will get it. They are trying to say, so who? Okay, so somebody is called No Gay Guilt. Somebody is called No Gay Guilt. Oh my gosh. No gay guilt. Okay. No, that person's been hidden. Is there somebody else? First Last is saying that he will have an additional donation at my next visit. God bless you. What a champion. I spoke so highly of First Last and when he invited me, and that was a couple shows back. When was that? What show was that, brother? And just a magnificent champion in service to white well-being on so many levels. Deeply appreciative. So thank you. The great Fornol says already handled the troll. So somebody was in here, I guess, trying to say that I am quite happy. I don't know why they're thinking that's a bad thing. I'm very happy. Let's see. Yiz back again with another $3. In regard to what you said about funding earlier, imagine what I could do with the funding Darlin Carlin has, let alone what the anti-white media pays their typists. Maybe one day, keep heart. And then a white heart emoji. Thank you. Yeah, and Yiz is one of many great examples. If you're out there, if you're one of those Deca or centimillionaires, you just got money and you want to make a difference in the world. If you can't tell, I mean, you're looking, I know what you're looking for. I've managed people. You want to see success before you decide to invest. Well, we've got all the success. We've got success after victory after victory. You got great people like this that will happily take a livable income. I will happily take a livable income to be able to do this full time. Happily just take a livable income and then passionately be able to do what we love. So you don't have to come and make people rich You just have to show up, for God's sakes, and enable us to do what we're doing full time. The world will change. The world would change like this by historical terms if we could do this full time. So if you are one of those people, step up now, or if you know where those neighborhoods are, head to those neighborhoods, distribute leaflets, distribute books. We've got to get these. We got to get these. Maybe we'll write a specific leaflet for the wealthy. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll put it up on the website, and then folks can just download it. Head to every rich neighborhood you can find, because money makes the world go round. This world go round. We're going to need to be able to do this full time to make that kind of change that rapidly. We're already doing huge things, so just show up, for God's sake, and you'll be applauded. Okay. Oh, I see over here in the question widget. It said, Jason Köhne is the gayest man on earth and proud of it. Nathaniel Nelson is over here, the real champion. Another one that we would highly recommend for a full-time job. Salvation Army went anti-white, asking Westman to apologize for racism. He put it in quotes properly, the anti-white slur. Thinking about leaving white positive messages with hearts and flowers, a la Elaine Sabatino style, in a collection basket. Input. I love it. I love it. Let their employees know, because it's full of white people. Let their workers know. Let their volunteers know how anti-white that place is. Let those white people find the moral matrix by which they can resist what the anti-whites are doing to them. Because you rest assured, if this Salvation Army, it's more like the Decimation Army now. It's like, how do we destroy the white race is what the Decimation Army is all about. When are they changing their name to Decimation? Asking Westman to apologize for the anti-white slur racism. I have a response. Decimation Army, shove it up your ass. That's my response. Anti-white dogs, anti-white pigs. Yonash says, ahoy, what's the weather like in DC? Here in Czechia, it is 0 Celsius. Well, that, of course, is 32. That's an easy one to do. It is a balmy 46 Fahrenheit right outside the nation's capital. Great to have you all with us. And it looks like over on Cash App, we have the great Brad C. is with us. And he has financially gifted $20 US. God bless you, brother, and wonderful to see another magnificent champion in service to white well-being. In all seriousness, folks, think about this. When you look at the different organizations in the white sympathetic sphere over the years, over the decades, you've had, the vast majority of time, you haven't had a single person that would be a good employee, that are good employees where they've worked in their lives apart from white sympathy. But you might get like one over here or one over there in that group. We have a slew of people. We have a slew of leaders in their communities. We have a slew of people that succeed. If big donors are going to show up, this is where they should show up. All right. So let me see what you all are saying. I'll refresh this and say hellos to some folks in the live chat. And Kingdom of Vinland is with us. Lockie is here. Hello. Elaine Sabatino. Bros and Bros. Promethean Epoch. The great Reptile is with us. 10 is with us. And who else do we have? Helig is with us. Hello to you. Begone. And Nancy Drew as well. And Jack, of course, the great Fornol is with us. Mirtha Barron, hello to you. We mentioned the great First Last. Catherine is here. Hello to you. Jerome V, great to see you, brother. And Jimmy is here. As it's just scanning along, saying hello randomly. Rory is with us. Coconut is with us. Irish Ice, the great champion, is with us. In fact, we have Irish Ice. Am I allowed to show the? Is it a business card that you have that you sent me? Am I allowed to share that? Let me know over in the question widget if I'm allowed to share that with folks. And Masumi Rabbit. And the dear, sweet sister Carlisle Kakatu is with us. And let's see. We have, if the screen will stop leaping, Jack is with us. Male Feelings, hello to you. And First Last has a poster that I'm going to be sharing in a little bit. It's on the outline, and we were absolutely 0022. I'm still busy cleaning my work equipment. I will share that success you asked me to share in the chat when I get a chance. Oh, right. God bless you. Thank you for that. Promethean Healing. When the people who target you are this classless, clearly you're doing great work. It shows the stark contrast between our love-based cause and the desire of anti-whites to harm us. Precisely. Thank you. Let me see who else. Misty is with us. And Rooster, hello to you. Great to see. Irish Ice says we can share the postcard. Mr. Fookers says Jason is awesome. Well, so is Mr. Fookers. Oh gosh, there's a no. They made another account. Euro Yankee is with us. And Brant, are you backstage yet? All right. Jay Link says, I'm also here. Shauna Shaw's here. Brody Bassett, Hyperborean Dream. JW, great to see you. 21st Dissident is here as well. All right. Swivel around here. We'll take a look. And yeah, we got him, folks. So here we go. We're going to learn all about the new updates at the only place where you want to get your schooling, and that is School of the West. How you doing, brother? Uh-oh, no audio yet. Oh, no. Okay. Should I drop you backstage while you work on it? All right. We'll do that, and I will pull up schoolofthewest.world right now, and it's pulling up. There it is. And I will show you all so we can have that wonderful website. This is where you can get quite a bit. Brand's going to be talking to us about this as soon as he is ready. And is audio's working? Audio's working. Here we go, folks. There he is, brother.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Oh, okay, great. So the reason that I wanted to come on the show today is to briefly talk about some classes that I'm going to start teaching next January.
Awesome.
So these aren't classes that are ordinary, quote, ordinary classes. So right now I'm teaching basic reading and math. And I've been putting together a course in what I call a concept called White Wellbeing. Maybe you guys have heard of that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It sounds intriguing.
It's just, let me explain. So it'll run from January, February, March, and to the end of April. And I'm going to have one course for youth. And I think that would be appropriate for children about maybe ages 4 or 5 up until, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11. And then I'm going to have one for teen as well. Nice. And I'm sure that adults can learn from the teen course as well. I like to say as well a lot. That's my go-to phrase there. So okay. Each course is broken down into 3 sections. So I'll briefly go over that. So I'm just giving it the normal naming convention that like you would get in a university class. So I've got the Youth White Wellbeing 101. That's going to be Biospirit and Western Kind, because to me, if you're introducing these subjects to someone, those are fundamental. If they don't understand what biospirit means, if they don't understand what Western kind is, then they're not going to understand everything else which is built on top of that.
Right.
So I'll be explaining that through some of the material that I put on the website. I'll be explaining that through analogies. And then also in that section, we'll be doing a few art projects. And that's going to run for 4 weeks. So while that youth part is running for 4 weeks, the teen part is going to be about propaganda, understanding propaganda. So a lot of that is going to come from the work that John Malt has done on the website. Right now, we have 4 different videos that talk about different ways in which propaganda is used. So we have an introduction to propaganda, how it's used in videos, images, TVs, movies, and in advertising. And one of the things I'm going to stress is the role of the subconscious mind versus the conscious mind, and how propaganda can affect people without them knowing about it. And then how do you become aware of it? And I'm going to go into detail about how it's pushed, why it's effective, and then of course, how do you recognize it when it comes up? So those sections are going to run for 4 weeks, and then I'm going to have a section for 5 weeks. And in that 5-week section, I'm going to be going over the same basic material for both the youth and the teens. And that section is going to be called Where We Come From. So in this 5-week section, about 3 weeks of that is just going to be space science and earth science. This is one of the subjects that I taught in high school. And the reason that I want to do this is because I think when you're teaching a class, you can connect anything to everything else in the universe. Let's say, for example, if you're talking about the Wright brothers, you can talk about their family, or you can talk about their house in Dayton, Ohio, or you can talk about how they worked on bicycles, or you can talk about how they went about working on the Wright Flyer, and how did they travel down there to do that. And then you could draw a cross-section of an airplane wing, which is also a cross-section of a helicopter wing, and you can talk about how it provides lift. And then you have to talk about air molecules. So you can keep chaining everything together and everything together. So in this section of Where We Come From, what I want to do is talk about the different, not necessarily myths, but the different theories from different religions and different cultures of where we came from. The general area, we can narrow down to some general areas, and then our migrations in different directions from there, and also the Solutrean hypothesis. And the reason that I want to start off with the space science and the earth science is so that you have to understand how the earth has evolved over time and how layers get laid down in the earth, and then radiometric dating. And once you understand how the science works, then you can understand why we have these theories, and it shows where we moved. And so I want to have this section in the middle of the classes to kind of give people a more solid foundation for, a springboard to doing their own investigations, or they can talk about this with other people later on. Anyway, it's more of a foundation that I think that our people need. So after that part, there's going to be an 8-week section, and during the youth time there, I'm going to call that, is it anti-white or is it all right? Now,
Nice.
I'm stealing this from Althea Promethea. So she came up with a game, and she shared this game board with me that she plays with her children. And it's kind of like it's a matrix. And you sit down with kids once they learn how to play it, and you can review TV shows or comics or cartoons. And you can see if there are mean pathogens that are appearing, and you can put a little token on there to say, like, how is this anti-white? What way is it anti-white? So it gets them thinking about recognizing this as they see this. Also in this section, I'm going to go over the role of envy. This is a huge piece of the puzzle which is missing from a lot of people, because you can see that you're being attacked, but you don't understand why. So if we can fill in the pieces of the puzzle here for our people, then they can understand what is happening around them. It can give them more confidence, and they can make better decisions as they move along. Also, part of this youth part in the last 8 weeks, there'll be a lot of art projects, Western kind themed art projects. Now, for the teen part of this last 8 weeks, I'm going to call this group well-being, because what we've lost as a people is that we don't understand that the group well-being is the individual well-being, like you've said before. If the group is okay, then by and large, the individuals are going to be okay. If the group is not okay. So there's some foundational aspects that I want to teach. One of them, again, is the role of envy from non-whites, and how does that play into the role of attacking us? Another thing I want to talk about is tradition. What is the role of tradition? Because tradition is not completely meaningless. It actually has a lot of value to it. It doesn't necessarily look like it has value on its face, but once you understand that if you follow tradition, whether it's silly or not, or you wear funny clothes or a funny hat, or you do a weird ceremony, it keeps your people on target, and it cannot be attacked from other sides because you have that tradition there, and or you have a religion or other beliefs which fulfill that role for you. So I want to talk about the importance of tradition. I want to talk about corruption. I want to talk about psychologically how corruption works, and how an institution, let's say a government or another organization like that, can be corrupted slowly over time, so that what you have at one point in time is not what you started with. And I want to be able to explain this to children so that they can chain these events together, and they can understand what's going on right now when they look around and they see people making certain decisions, and it doesn't seem to be helping the citizenry. And you ask yourself, well, why is that happening? Well, if you understand corruption, if you understand human psychology, you can see how this happens. Then I also want to talk about leadership. This is the last important point in this group well-being section. So leadership is extremely important to our people because we like to set things up in a hierarchy. And the higher up people go into roles of leadership, the more effects they have on us, either good or deleterious. And we've had massive failures of leadership from the top of our societies over and over and over. And I don't want to harp on this just to criticize people, but I want to say, look, here's some good examples of leadership, and here's some horrible examples of leadership. And also this corruption kind of ties into this. So I want people to see the whole picture, how everything affects everything else. And when you have failures in leadership, how does this affect us negatively? And then I'll end that section with proper examples of leadership from Westman, kind of like mini lessons. So this whole thing is going to run 17 weeks. So I'll have youth lessons and I'll have teen lessons. And what I plan on doing is having classes 2 days a week. So there'll be lessons, say maybe on a Tuesday, and then there'll be some homework, and then we'll go over the homework on a Friday, and we'll do some new material. And so we'll have 2 classes each week. So it'll be 34 classes for the teen course, 34 classes for the youth course. So this is going to draw from what you've done. This is going to draw from work that I've seen from Mark Weber. This is going to draw from a little bit of what Greg Johnson has done. This is going to draw from Frody Midjord. This is going to draw from Synagogue. This is going to draw from everything that I've been watching and then bringing in over the past 3 or 4 years, and then breaking that down into the appropriate chunks for the age level of the children so that they understand that. So this is kind of like taking the White Wellbeing, taking the parts that are appropriate for children at different ages, and then putting that within a context, because it's important to understand things within a context. Otherwise, it makes it much more difficult to figure out what the teacher's talking about. Right.
Absolutely superb. I'm so impressed, genuinely impressed. And so this is another thing, folks. This is how we come together as a team and we recapture our destiny. I can work for all of these years and have on winnowing out some of the most powerful concepts, and we continue to do that together today so that we can recapture our destiny with those concepts. I have no idea how to organize it especially for like the younger and teens and even adults. I have no idea how exactly to organize it so that it is most assimilable to them, so that they can get these ideas at a foundational level and then be able to build on top. How many times have we, each and every one of us, has had to endure this going through school, where we were tasked with learning it might be, and then we get an inferior understanding or inadequate understanding of A. And then they bring B that's supposed to set right on top along, and we simply can't understand B because we never fully got A. This is something that I have no skill in whatsoever. Brant has immense skill at this. And so he's taken this information, he's bringing in other information from these other content creators, and he has assembled this information in a way so that each strata, like we're talking about, doing the earth science, so each strata, each layer there is assimilable at its best, in its best possible way, because of the previous strata or level being assimilated. So I'm really excited. I'm very impressed, brother. This School of the West, this is a real thing. We're finally doing real things in the white sympathetic sphere. I mean, there have been so many good, well-meaning people, and there have been some real things done over the years. But by far and large, especially when it comes to organizational structures and things being built, things have been so amateurish. They've been so ad hoc. They've been so, they've suffered from so many of the strictures and foibles of clubism, and it's just another flash in the pan. We're building real things, real institutions, and Brant is demonstrating that maturity and that determination. I want you to participate in this. Brant's going to give you in a moment information about where you can go and where you can sign up your kids. Even adults can learn from the teen material that he's talking. Absolutely. From the teen material that he's going to be sharing. I want you to sign up for this. If you have to go without this little thing with cakes, or maybe a couple packs of beer, or whatever it is, something in your life, if you have to skip some of those to be able to, or not take as many drives, especially now with Biden's gas prices, but if whatever you got to do, make this something that you decide, all right, I want to be part, not just a student because I thought there's going to be some interesting things here. There obviously is, but because you want to be part of building something new from scratch, something real, something that can actually endure. Be a part of it. And if you do have the little ones, all the better. If you're an uncle or an aunt, be a part of this. Make it available to their parents. Say, hey, look, this is where you got to go for these classes. And this is talk about Brant the way you would talk about some so-called big name that they are willing to put on the television for you. Some talking head, they would bring them out and they would tout them as the most amazing thing in education that's ever lived. Talk about Brant that way. Say, look, this is going to be easiest, for your kids. I've already bought it, so you might as well do it. Sister or brother, whatever it might be. Get involved. Let's make this a thing, a real thing. So, brother, a couple quick questions. Are you going to put the information that you have shared with us here in some written form so that people can see exactly what they're getting, not just hear it from you? And where do folks reach out to find that information and or to get in touch with you to sign up for these classes as soon as the gathering is done?
Okay. All right. If you scroll up to the top of the page.
Yeah.
And then click on the membership plans link at the top.
Membership plans. Okay.
Yeah. Now, at the very top of that, which I finished about an hour ago. Okay.
Wow.
There's a brief description right there. Now, what I'm going to do, if you scroll down, there's the sign up form. So what I'm going to do is offer it for $120, and it's just going to be a one-time fee, and it's going to be for families, many kids as you put in there. It doesn't matter. And when I run the classes, what I'm going to do is, these are private classes. This is not a video that I put out there and that people watch. This is only going to be for the people that are signed up for it, because I don't want other people, coming in, because we don't want that. And when I open up a meet time, when I open up a class for the first hour, I'm going to teach the youth class. Then I'll have a break. Then I'm going to teach the teens class. So for whatever reason, if people want to watch both of those, that's fine. Okay. And so this price will be a one-time price of $120. That's going to be for all the lessons, youth or teen, That's the whole deal right there. Also, what I'm going to do is, this is just a very brief outline of the information that I went over. So if you read those titles, you don't know what the heck I'm talking about. So I'm going to put another link on here. It's probably going to be a couple days, and I'm going to put much more of a detailed of a syllabus of what's going to go through. And then as I break this down more, I can go down into day by day what's going to be on there. Now, another thing, which is kind of interesting to me, because Tony Vermont contacted me from the White People's Press, and he was talking about, do I want to print anything off? So probably what I'll be doing, no, I will be doing it, I'm not making any excuses here, is I'll be putting some information together so that we can either have a textbook and or a workbook for next year when I run these classes again, and then people can, it'll be more and more like a real school. So when I teach these classes, when I teach, I come from the public school point of view. So I have things set up professional to get it done. However, the good thing about teaching online like this in little closed sessions is we can tweak it to what the students and the parents want. We don't have to run it like a regular class. And I can go into more detail if things are curious, or students are curious about something, or we can pass that and go on to the next subject. And for people that are participating in the class, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a place where these are going to be recorded, and I'll put them online. So in case they miss a lesson, they can go to this place and they can download the lessons and they can watch it so they can get back up to speed. And instead of building all of this stuff onto the School of the West website for this go around, I'm going to push everything out by emails. So all the worksheets and everything else, all the information that goes to the parents is going to go out by email before each week. That's the way that I'm going to communicate this time.
That is fantastic. I'm really excited about this. So you see, folks, it's very easy. You're going to go to schoolofthewest.world. Upper right-hand corner, you see membership plans. I'm highlighting, and I assume you all can see exactly as that highlights when every time I put the cursor on it. Membership plans, upper right-hand corner, you click that, and that brings you right to the page where you can see the outline of the course. Brian says he's going to be adding some more information, and all you have to do is scroll down to be able to sign up. And you go ahead and take a look at the prices that you have to pay at private schooling and tutors and the like, who are going to teach your children, your white babies, to hate themselves. And you compare that to this, and this is nothing. So if you want to be a part of something big, if you want to be a part of something, if you can be a part of it, and you want to be a part of it, then now is the time to get involved. And very proud of you, brother. And this is wonderful. Any final words before we let you go, or you want to tell folks where they can write you with any particular questions they might have?
Yeah, down on the bottom of each of the pages, it's contact@schoolofthewest.world. And I also want to say that even though I'm going to be teaching this, I'm also excited because this is the start of something pretty cool. This is going to be the only class like this probably in the history of the planet that has all of this stuff together. So that's pretty awesome. So I'm glad that I can be a part of it. I'm thankful for everyone who stuck their necks out, who are sharing everything that they've learned over their decades and their years, just like you've done, so that I could take all of that and synthesize it down into a format that then it can be taught to our kids. So we're all working together.
Yeah, we sure are. That is so wonderful. God bless you, brother. Thank you for everything that you are doing. And any moment you have anything else to share, you want to come on, you are welcome immediately right back.
Okay. Appreciate it.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Talking about lessons, we're going to jump right into the Going Free lesson of the day, folks. What is numerical diffidence, numerical courage? And did I also, no, I just did numerical diffidence and numerical courage, right? Yes. So people often wonder what that is. It is a critically important concept in order to understand our world and in order to understand the differences between the behaviors of maybe this non-white group in this area and that same group of people over here. Instead, if you don't have this on the tip of your tongue when you're dealing with your own subconscious, and when certainly then when you're dealing with others, you are not going to be able to remain in that moral matrix, that moral high ground. So let's go ahead and talk about what is numerical diffidence. The state in which a people within the body of another people or peoples is reluctant to project their biospirit onto their environment for fear of upsetting, angering the other people or peoples. Prior to achieving numerical courage, non-whites in Western countries are in a state of numerical diffidence. While in this state, non-whites superficially conform to the biospiritual expression of Western kind. Now, that doesn't make the non-white people bad people. They can be wonderful people. They could be producing and wonderful contributors to our to Western civilization, our countries that we created. They could be in the military. They could make it their home. They've been, they could have come to a Western country and been there for generations, served in police and fire department and military, been wonderful people. That takes nothing away from them. Instinct is something that as animals, since we are in an animal body, there's no escaping. We refer to it as the biospirit. Biological and spirit, there's something we can't yet totally understand. There's biology we can understand largely. And in the more complex the animal, the more complex the instinct on its environment. And when it comes to humanity, in aggregate for a people, we call that culture. And this is why you can't have more than a single biospirit present in large and in a numerical, courageous state, because you end up in a cultural arms race. Why is that? We feel harmony when we see our instinct, our biospirit, in our environments. We feel compatible. When you go to non-white countries or non-white areas in the West, you might find their structures to be beautiful. You might find their poetry to be wonderful. You might find their prose to be splendid. And yet, if you're honest with yourself as a Westman, man or woman or child of Western kind, you will know that you don't feel that same sort of simpatico, that same sort of harmony that you have when you are in the presence and structures and literature and art, etc., of Westmen. You simply don't. The non-white people, they feel that same harmony with their creations. In the state of numerical diffidence, this is why you have these scenarios where white people will say, well, we have a non-white population in our town and they're wonderful people. They're not trying to change anything. Well, they're not trying, I'm sure they're wonderful people, but they're not trying to change anything to reflect who they are on the inside, which is nothing, which we're not saying is bad, just their instinct, because they are in this state of numerical diffidence. They fear that changing the environment will anger that host population, that larger population that they've moved into, where we're brought into against their will, maybe. They fear changing it because what if we anger them? Just as we would be afraid if we went to China and decided, well, there's 100 of us, so let's go ahead and start remaking the city. We would think, boy, there's going to be a lot of angry Chinese people if we start making the city look like us. If we start putting our holidays in their faces, they're going to be a little upset. Now, if that number grew to 1 million of us, we would certainly begin feeling a little bit more courageous. Now, when we talk about numerical diffidence and numerical courage, we have focused on the number. We use the word numerical, but that is influenced by a couple of things. It can be a religion that empowers a group of people to make them more courageous, maybe even more rash when it comes to other people's. There can be on the other side of the equation, if the host population is quite diffident, quite frightened, quite intimidated, guilted like white people, white guilted, it's going to take far fewer. You could of a guest population, or not a non-white population being present. So you could imagine if you were to take in a laboratory type of thought scenario, you take X number of non-white people and you put them in a population of whites that is Y, and you do the exact same thing, dichotomize the two. So you have them set apart in order to compare. And in one white population, you have the white people white guilted. And in the other one, you have them quite proud of being white. The white guilted population, it would take far fewer of that non-white population. X might be enough for that non-white population to say, hey, I feel comfortable with go ahead and changing this environment so that I can feel harmony with the world around me. Whereas in the other equation, the second equation, X might not be anywhere close to being enough for the non-white population to feel confident enough to go ahead and just start changing the way the environment looks. So that is numerical diffidence. You can view it on a macro or micro scale. So at your high school, you had the one non-white kid. Well, he just behaved like all the other white kids there, so there's no difference. Well, that is numerical diffidence that you're seeing in him. Now, you bring in far more of his group of people, maybe they're wonderful people. Forget about crime rates or anything like that. Maybe they're all wonderful people. But you bring in far more of them, and at some point, they're going to become numerically courageous. So that's numerical courage. And they'll then say to themselves at that high school, well, and when I say to themselves, I'm not saying they may, but it would be something that would just be an inner thought. I feel comfortable enough. I feel like there are enough of us. I have the sensation of that. And now whatever is normal for our instinct, whatever that non-white in the particular group is, now I feel fine with letting that out. Now I feel fine with putting that on the environment. Now I feel fine with petitions to teachers and principals to celebrate holidays of our people. Now I feel fine with, putting a statue that is very alien to these people out in front of their high school. So numerical courage, the state in which a people within the body of another people or peoples confidently projects their biospirit onto their environment without concern for the other people or peoples. The point at which non-whites within Western countries manifest and project their biospiritual expressions, which are at variance with white expression, onto Western civilization. This process initiates a cultural arms race, which always ends in oppressive governmental tyranny and violent balkanization. You can look throughout history. And by the way, just to the statement where I say are always at variance, all of the instincts of the different groups of man, if there are different groups, as CNN, all of the different instincts, they can't occupy the same place in space and time, because the thing that is not of you will elicit that sensation of discord, of disharmony. So it's an automatic thing. It's not that one is good or bad. Neither are good or bad. There's no measuring stick here. There's no metric for good or bad or moral or immoral or ethical or unethical. It just has everything to do with a difference in instinct. And throughout all of history, we can look at history. Honest historians will tell you, where you mix, when you jumble a bunch of different groups of people in to an area, there begins, and where they reach numerical courage, each of two or more of the groups, there begins what I refer to as a cultural arms race. And so it's just like this one-upmanship of you're going to have your statue in this city, we're going to have a bigger statue of our kind, and we're going to have a bigger statue of that kind, and we're going to have a bigger. And what do they say the whole time to the white race? They say, you just have to shut up and accept it and embrace it. You just have to allow it to. They have to constantly guilt you to get you to do that, don't they? So what ends up happening though throughout history is, the first thing is that the government, who is whatever controlling entity that might be, who is in charge of controlling the territory where all of these different groups have been brought together, they have to implement severe tyrannical control. I mean, brutal, where they, if you don't get along, we'll execute people right on the spot. And you see it throughout history. They would come in, and sometimes it would be completely arbitrary. They're like, oh, you're fighting again? Okay, we're going to kill several hundred people of both sides. That is the norm. And then eventually, you end up in a lot of bloodshed between the competing groups, and then you end up in balkanization. And then the instinct of the animal, the human animal, reasserts itself in its environment. If you don't like that always happens, you need a different species. That's a reality of who and what we are. There's no changing that. There's no overcoming that. There's no thinking your way out of that. You just need a different species. So it's like complaining that dogs can't fly. You think you could imagine trying to think wings onto a dog. It's just not possible. So you need a different species if you wanted to be able to fly. And so that, if you have any questions about that, I'll address them when we come back. I think it's great. We just have Brandon. We have this magnificent collaborations going on, and Brant talking about this game that Promethea came up with is it anti-white or is it all right? That is just so awesome, and that they could come together. And now that's going to be available to so many kids. So a big thank you to Promethea and to Brant and all the hard work that they're doing. And we will be right back.
They are not opposing white supremacy. They are not opposing white nationalism. They are not opposing white separatism. They are opposing white identity. They are opposing white people.
As we see today in the ailing West. Death as part of life versus an entirely anti-life view. Is this just wordplay? Maybe the zombies have been eating my brain. It's been observed for some time now that the zombie trend, which has pervaded popular culture since around the turn of the century, reflects the zeitgeist and has something in it for everyone. The left can fret and vent about the decline they're ushering in, all the while distancing themselves from it and masking it in gimmicky entertainment. The right can buy their zombie apocalypse firearms and tactical gear. Yes, this is a real thing, and prepare for the coming collapse. And those more attuned to the demographic shifts and also how the mainstream brainwashes the masses can find their own metaphors. But everyone knows something is wrong. A culture that was more homogenous, cohesive, and rooted wouldn't quite be so enamored of undead soulless slaves who want to make you one of them. We would do well to understand what vital energies and wisdom spring from a true and organic connection to death, and contrast this with what is disconnected, flailing about and destroying with no view towards regeneration, destruction for destruction's sake, consumption for consumption's sake, unmoored and out of tune with what is balanced and sustaining. To do so, we'll take a look back at some of the traditions of our European ancestors. This is not in an attempt to recreate the past, nor is it to say that everything about the past was better. I can already see some of the comments now. Rather, it is to uncover the best aspects of our timeless character traits, even though those traits, of course, sometimes are perverted or buried under the modern world, and reassert those traits now for our own survival, well-being, and thriving. Death holds a mystifying fascination, and in the autumn and latter part of the year especially, our ancestors encountered and even celebrated death as a fact of life. Today we carve our jack-o'-lanterns, tell ghost stories, and in the month of October in some of our lands, prepare for the modern holiday of Halloween, which has much older and deeper roots in similar holidays seen from various European traditions. Alpha-Blot in the Teutonic lands, Giadi in the Slavic, Martini and Velu lakes in the Baltic, Samhain in the Celtic. One aspect of these old traditions was a quiet and private veneration of the dead. This could take the form of a family meal where all was dark and silent at the homestead, and the spirits of deceased relatives were invited, so to speak, to the occasion. Our ancestors weren't being macabre for its own sake when they were doing this, nor were they in denial about their loved ones having passed from this life. They were honoring the dead and reminding themselves that our families, and more broadly our people, are part of a grand procession through time, and that we the living are just one link in the chain. And the dead had a real presence in our ancestors' lives, so long as they kept the memory of the dead alive. Somewhat like we keep pictures today of dead relatives, or maybe even speak or pray to them. But the practices I'm mentioning here put much more of an intentional focus on the living's relation to the dead. Indeed, this was part of a larger worldview where our earthly life was seen as just one mode of existence, just one dimension, in a living universe that's a tapestry of significance and meaning. A bit different than the world only of stats and graphs made by our corporate and managerial zombies. But they'll engineer the perfect world for you.
Jared George is always amazing, and we'll just keep working through that piece that he did for Red Ice, and really appreciate him, a great participant and servant to White Wellbeing. Let us move on, though. I want to share some things, and I'm going to look at what you all are saying. Some of the announcements. We don't have any mail today, but I will share some of the announcements. Now, I have your real name in my head, and I have lost your screen name as far in my head. So I don't want to say your real name, but created some stickers for us on D Live. Does anybody know what his screen name is? Who's over there on D Live? I see that Jack is over there, and so's Jilly. Hello to you both. So's Otterox. And who else? Is that Uber based, I think? Who else? Gosh, here comes this is the sticker though. And one of them, and I'll share one maybe a week, but check out that. Isn't that magnificent? And these can be used. He said that I can use these So let's get a round of raucous emojis together. Made a handful of these and sent them over, different types of stickers, and they are fantastic. But that's wonderful looking, isn't it? It's very Western. And so a big thank you. I don't want to say your real name. That's all that's in my head. I've forgotten your screen name at the moment. But a big round of raucous emojis for that champion. Stickers that can be used again on DLive or anywhere. And that's what you originally told me about them. It is very cozy, isn't it? Would you like to just go sit down there and talk about the state of the West and how we're going to read? You know, it would be nice going sitting down in there, because this is obviously the home of, or was the home, I'm guessing it's a home of some filthy rich white person that could bring us in and say, you know what? I want to see you all reclaim our destiny. We're going to back you. That sounds like a plan to me. Now, we also have this that we want to share. And first, last, I'm sure he's still with us. And we're going to put it up on the screen. This is an infographic that First Last created. Okay, so it was Promethean Healing. That's the screen name. Thank you so much, brother. That is, those stickers are beautiful. Very well done. Thank you for that, those graphics that you did. Called stickers over there on DLive. And a big hello to everybody on DLive today. And so this is, and I will be sharing Promethean Healing. You probably heard me say that I'll share maybe like one a week or something. But here, this is First Last created this infographic, and it is fantastic. And maybe what we'll do is we'll end up putting this on the website, so folks maybe could print this out. This could be something people could print out and share. But he's got here several categories: the counterfeit courage, such as defending free speech. That is your typical Republican, isn't it? That's the counterfeit courage. And then you have safe and fake scapegoats. Scapegoat, like somebody like a liberal, they're going to take on, that's what the Republicans say, they're going to take on the liberals. Well, that's not the problem. That's a fake scapegoat. Then you have the strategies that have struck out. And of course, he names them here. Street parades and the protests. I mean, if you're still one of those people after the Charlottesville lawsuit that are still saying, get in the streets and show force, you are really thick. You are really thick. I mean, yeah, you didn't listen to Jason, but now you are, if you don't even get the $500,000, the $500,000 fine for making somebody feel uncomfortable, then you are, you need help, puppy. You need help. And then you have going free. Precise and accurate diagnosis, effective treatment, personally beneficial. And then, of course, on everything, you want to have the website so that people know where to go. Empower them with something. And let's get a big raucous round of emojis for First Last for building this infographic. And it's beautiful and helpful. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, brother. That is the great First Last, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, and then many of you may have seen, and I think I shared it once, right? And some funny individual, bass guitarist is with us. Great to see you on the White Wellbeing general chat. Made this. I found it. I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, but it was if Jason and Mark had a baby. And I think I may have shared it. He's not going to get by on his looks. He's not going to, but he's going to be a smart kid. He's going to be a really smart kid because he has no choice. I mean, that's just the bottom line. He's got to make it work with his smarts. So we're looking forward to him one of these days stepping from the crowd and doing great things for us. This is, and then of course, folks, we have the great Irish Ice doing the wonderful work that he's doing up in Canada. And he sent me a business card. There you check this out. Isn't this beautiful? He is really making things happen up in Canada, and we're very proud of him. Big round of raucous emojis for Irish Ice. White Wellbeing Canada. Eradicating Antiwhitism, nowhiteguilt.org. You always give the people something powerful, something useful, because that might be the only time that our brother or sister, that you'll see them, that you'll be in there in front of them with a leaflet or your face or your voice. It might be once in their whole lives. You give them something powerful, and you give them the website so they know where to follow up. So a big round of raucous emojis for Irish Ice and all of these great champions for white well-being. We have, let's see, what is this? Something I wanted to mention. I guess I'll mention it just quickly, that it's something I've thought about for many years, and I am not a musician, and nor am I calling on musicians to absolutely do this or to try to do this. But why don't we have music with attitude? Why don't we have music that gives us confidence? A great example of music that gives its listeners attitude and confidence is rap music for a segment of the Black population around the world, but obviously primarily in Western civilization. Why don't we have something like that? Rock music doesn't have attitude. It doesn't, country music is the exact opposite. Country music is like gelded music. And no, you don't have to be, I'm not talking here about using racial slurs to have attitude or be, it's the exact opposite. Why can't we, these like rap song, or I'd call them songs, but they are, the artists are conveying how their group is powerful, how their group is impressive. And they're not in those songs because they're accessible, the vast majority of them. I'm sure you could find individual pieces, but the vast majority of them are accessible to white people. Maybe they wouldn't be if they didn't have smart people saying, no, you can't actually say to kill all the white people because then they won't buy the album, or, but whatever it is, why don't we have that? I find this fascinating, and I'm waiting for, and I'm going to maybe I'll just start putting it out there every now and again so that musicians will, and I'm not talking about high culture here. I'm talking about low culture, something people could turn up in their cars, and they got to go into the meeting, they got to go for the interview, and they can crank this up, and it's just all about how the white race is awesome. And definitely not death metal, definitely not, that's all trash. You have to be able to understand, and I understand there are death metal fans and black metal fans and all of these different types screaming, and it's nuts. We love, white people, generally speaking, we love guitar, particularly electric guitar. Why can't there be, why can't electric guitars, and maybe this is my ignorance when it comes to music, but why can't there be electric guitar riffs that are like analogous to like the beats that are at a pace that inspire attitude? And you know what I'm talking about. Don't pretend like you don't, because when you hear, without hearing any words, you just hear the music and you can feel the attitude in it. You can feel the confidence in it. So you get it to a degree when it comes to like rock music and Southern rock. You get it to a degree, but like it's trying to go that direction. But then it ends up just giving itself over to, this is a lot of fun. This is really enjoyable. And that's good. That's good too. But here I'm talking about attitude from start to finish, confidence from start to finish. We need a music, whether it's going to be something created at a whole cloth or a merger or something that grows out of something that already exists. We need a music to serve as the soundtrack of the recapture of our destiny. Unquestionably so. We need that. So just something I will continue to share from time to time. I have no musical talent, so I can't make it. I can just kind of envision what it would be like. I want to share again Tony Vermont's books. Christmas is coming. You cannot wait. You got to get 50 classic tales. Get 50 classic tales. I want to read some of this in a stream by itself. You got to get Folk, the new Folk book. You got to get this. Maybe I'll read some of that. Maybe this I'll read for the kids. I'll do a stream. We'll do a stream just for the kids. I'll read some. Maybe I'll read some of this. Jared George has got a story in here. They've got wonderful things over there at whitepeoplepress.com. If we can share that in the live chat, I'd really appreciate it from one of the mods. But they've got wonderful stuff. Let's keep Tony and the good people over there. Let's keep them inspired to continue to do white positive things. All right. So let's remember Tony. Thank you so much, Tony, and the hard work that you're doing. Content creator that I want to share this week is, who is it? It is No White Guilt Clips. No White Guilt Clips is the content creator I want to share this week. Is No White Guilt Clips still on YouTube? If one of the mods has the URL, if they could share it, that'd be great. If not, I mean, you could jump on over to YouTube, and maybe it's BitChute that you got to go to for No White Guilt Clips. Maybe you could search on one of the search engines and find No White Guilt Clips. Amazing, amazing work being done by No White Guilt Clips. And thank you for your service to White Wellbeing, brother. I'm going to jump into these community comments, and then we're going to get to some of your calls. And if anybody would like to call in, reach out via Skype, let me know, and then I will call you. But we're not going to be here for as long as we normally are. I've got a lot of work to do, and I'm going to be getting back to that. But we'll jump right to these after I see what you all are saying. And I jump into entropy right here, and we have the great Irish Ice. So the man is a virtuosic master of white well-being. Here he is, a $5 financial gift, writing, racism, in quotes, because it should be in quotes, is an anti-white concept that implies Western kind is evil, that they refuse to accept a white guilt identity by way of the anti-white narrative, prioritize the well-being of non-white peoples, and surrender their country under the threat of social lynching. Well, yeah, exactly. That is what racism, the anti-white concept, racism means. You can never wield it against anti-whites, ever. And definitely not against non-white anti-whites. But you can never wield it against them. All you do by saying that concept is empower it. So I have to get better at communicating that, because apparently there's still some out there that don't quite get that you should not use the anti-white concept racism. Let it die. It's dying. So we can help it go that direction. Just be like, here, right into the hole. Just go to your hole in the ground, and we will fill it in. Get your raucous emojis out, ladies and gentlemen, for the wonderful Mrs. Jess Horst, who just financially gifted $50 US. This woman of a baseball team's worth of children, $50 US. Thank you so much. Just checking in with my folk tithing. 3 white heart emojis, NWG and Kip. Kip indeed, sister. That is magnificent. Thank you so much for all of your service to white well-being and to raising your children, inoculating them against anti-whiteism, and for your magnificent financial gifts that you get. $50 US. That's most one. Thank you so very much for that. Let me swivel around this way, and thank you all for celebrating. I probably will have people thinking about the whole music thing now. They'll be thinking, yeah, why don't we have music with attitude? All right. And there we have it. The wonderful I Love Jesus Christ over here on Cash App. Thank you so much, sister, financially gifting $10 US and writing for white well-being. God bless you. And thank you so very much again. Slide up through the live chat quickly, and then I'm going to turn around to my left. Look at the other screen. Fernell saying we need to get this on nowhiteguilt.org. Oh, the graphic maybe? 0022. I texted the third-party recruiter. The company promotes white erasure, which makes them anti-white. I do not do business with anti-whites. Yes, so you're sharing that in the live chat. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. That is a great victory that you had in service to white well-being. And congratulations Well done. Let me slide through. And see, the great Raymond Foster is with us, folks. Everybody give a round of Raucous emojis for 0022 and the success that he had in dealing with an anti-white, getting an anti-white or vague, I guess, to apologize for being anti-white. Yes, trying to tell, sympathize. You'll have to go through and find 0022's different comments about, you I guess you could, I don't know how many characters you're allowed on entropy, but if it may be on the question widget over there, it might be easier, and then I could read what you write over there. First Last says he fixed the spelling. Oh, I won't be able to do it right now, but yeah, we will definitely get the finished version. We move quickly, folks. We go right to the even the rough draft. We're just moving on it because we have to save Western kind. Fernand says metal. He embraces heavy metal. Well, I guess, yeah, the closest that I have heard to attitude in white music was Guns N' Roses. They had attitude, but that was, I think, maybe if you kept going that. But see, so much of that, of course, was also Axl Rose's voice. He had attitude. When you're the kind of guy that if somebody's videotaping you illegally in your concert and you dive into the crowd to get them, and you're a little guy, he's a little guy, you got attitude. So maybe that's the direction to go. Rory says, what's wrong with country music? 99.9% of it is about white males not being valuable without a female in their life, and looking to the woman for meaning and value, I guess, to repeat myself, and not being otherwise a badass, being the exact opposite. I mean, it's so many of the songs are so pathetic. The other thing is that so many of the songs undermine your resistance. And I wanted to make a video about this, and I will probably in the future still. Like, there was this video that came out recently. Somebody will know. And it came out recently. It was about, I guess, Biden got elected, and this country music guy, but he's like a couple tiers down, and he made this song, but everybody was liking it. And I was like, what's a song that everybody is so excited about? Everybody's talking about this country music song about how everything's changing. And I listened to the song, and I wanted to put my foot through the dash of the car, because it was another one of these songs that leaves you crying and feeling helpless. That's not what happens with rap music. So for a segment of the black population, if a song, and these are the songs that the country music labels push. I wonder why. I wonder why they push music that makes you cry about how everything is changing and everything's being white erased, and it's so sad, and we should just cry about it and just say, well, there used to be good old days. No, that's not the kind of music we should have. We should all reject that kind. If a song is making you, if a song's talking about how we are, like so many of these country songs do, talking about how we've lost everything, so much is changing, and God bless America as everything changes, and you feel like crying, or you are crying by the end, you should never listen again, because that is inducing nothing but just fecklessness in action. So that's my problem with it. And then there are some country musicians, and they were always blacklisted by the record labels, and they have a couple songs that you might consider more badass and with more attitude. But those same guys, you hear just disgusting. They have disgusting songs. So that's not the direction we want to go. We're not a cartoon. Let's see, bass guitars. It's called Chad metal, and I'm working on it. All right, yeah. I mean, if you could take I don't know. I mean, maybe obviously there were a lot of threads in GNR music that were brought together that gave it that specific texture, and I really think Rose was the attitude. But I'm talking about a music, so that, you know, it's not just a one-off with. So I don't know. I mean, I always thought that you could do the same sort of beats that have attitude with an electric guitar, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't play it. So Artificer is here. You need to look into new retro wave. All right. I don't think I've heard any of that. White, yes, that's right. Stephen Whitesnake, exactly. Promethean Healing. Yeah. So, but I mean, still, you kind of go into, you know what I'm saying? The difference between like the attitude and maybe a little bit of attitude with, that's really good. You know, there's a bit of a difference there. And that's obviously a difficult thing for folks to put their finger on. Sabaton is a decent metal band. They write songs about great battles, mostly Western. Okay. I'll check them out. And let's see, we had a jump on me here. So thank you all for sharing in the celebration, for everybody that we are celebrating. All right, now the screen froze. Now it's moving again. Bass guitar says, I'll try to get that out on the double. Think about how cool that would be, though. I mean, maybe it'd be really, maybe it'd be lousy, but I mean, maybe it'd be really cool to have at beats that are clearly, you hear it, it's an attitude, but it's not, you know, I guess there would still be, you know, drums or, but the electric guitar would be doing it. That would be just, and then you'd have to have, and it doesn't have to be, I think probably this is the other thing. The lyrics, and maybe this is just my failing. I don't understand most of the lyrics in songs. I'm like, what the hell are they saying? I always get like the exact opposite. I'm like, was he saying something about Cheerios? And they're like, people look at me like I'm insane. But I think that you don't need to have a great, that's another thing that I think holds people back is everybody's waiting for somebody who can sing really well. And then when they can sing really well, they just kind of put their voice on display. And then that's more of a fun thing than an attitude thing. I mean, you don't have to rap, but you could talk and make it clear. Maybe if you talk like aggressive, you know, like if it's, I mean, maybe almost like when I'm orating in a maybe in a passionate way, but in that would go with the song, and it's yeah, something like that. So it's clearly where it's not like the silliness of a rap song where it's just like, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know. I can only imagine, and since I'm not a musician, I'm not sure, but it sounds like it could be really badass. We need something so that the young white kids, you know, when the young white men, their teens, their 20s, and they're pulling up to the football game, they're pulling up to the fast food restaurant, they're pulling up to they're driving to that interview at the job they want to get away, and they can just turn that up, and they're going to feel like they're badasses when they're done listening to it. They're people, and therefore they are badasses. So obviously the lyrics have to speak to that, and they have to be understandable. And even it doesn't have to be like a complex, like they're talking about this one band. You don't have to like talk about like this complex story of some like epic. I'm not saying that's what they do, but you don't have to have this complex story of some epic. You just need listen to these songs that are most effective. Don't think that you're better than what they can do. You are, but do what works. So they have what is it? The chorus that is really just repeated and then you have a couple spots in between. You just say, and make them all badass so that when the guy is, and again, be white positive. Don't play the villain in the anti-white narrative. And so the guy gets out of the car and he's like, I'm a badass because my people are badass, and that badass is inside of me, you know. And they have the badass like guitar and in their head, and that beat maybe made out of the guitar. I don't know. There'll have to be some experimentation. I've always just wondered this and thought, I wish I'd gone into music, but I just don't have any talent for it. I can enjoy it, but you can't create it. Donning Armor is with us. He says, I suggest, I don't know who that is, traditional European music. It's very powerful stuff. Do they have words? More Druna? Do they have words in the music, or is it, because there are a couple bands I've shared this thinking with people before. I don't know on a Going Free stream though. And then they're like, I've got what you need, and they shoot me over these, like, it's cool. It's like, okay, it's some ancient Germanic or ancient Celtic like drum playing, and it's like no real words in the, and I get that there's the this is of the old music or whatever, and I think it's cool too, but that's not really what I'm getting at. You know, I want a kid to be able to crank that to maximum volume and like I said, get out of the car and think that he's the baddest thing on planet Earth. Hallander says, oh, talking to White, no White Girl Clips, but great to see you, Hallander. Heilig says, yes, they have words, but usually in German or Norwegian. Well, of course, that's not going to help the vast majority of our folks. So that's unfortunate. Just about everybody speaks English. It's the lingua franca. So, and then you see the influence extent. I mean, we look out to Eastern Europe and you can see all these white guys who are imitating America, this certain group of blacks in America, and they're listening to the rap music, and because they're looking to be something other than white, obviously. But Donning Armour says they speak English, German, and various European languages. We'll have to check it out, see if I haven't heard him before. Let's keep rolling, though. Sakis is back with $3 more. Thank you so much. Another financial gift in the first White Wellbeing death metal band to exist in the future. You are wrong, Jason. Death black metal rules. Well, I'm sure it does for you. I've listened to a lot of it. In fact, I won't mention the guy, but there's a guy who many years ago financed it. I knew him, and he financed a bunch of the bands and produced, I guess, was the cause of a bunch of the bands. And I listened to quite a little bit of it, and it's nobody is going to feel, let me rephrase. Generally speaking, people are not going to be able to crank that up and feel powerful. They're going to feel shell-shocked, most people. But I appreciate your taste, brother. OG Snoop, financially gifting $10. Thank you so much. Says, Amalahar's Take the Rainbow Down is pretty white and unapologetic. I did some research recently on Charlottesville and found it funny how it was a protest made by people who didn't realize General Lee would have never fought a battle over a statue. Yeah, I mean, certainly the way they went out there would have been not something that Robert E. Lee would have approved of. The way that they behaved, the things that they said, the signs that they had, some of them just, yeah, he would have. And I'll have to check that out. Thank you very much for the link and the financial gift about Alma Lahars. All right. So let me jump back to this so we can keep rolling really quickly. My sister says 0022, talking about earlier, sabotage the Thanksgiving meal today like she does literally every Thanksgiving. Then my family pretends to be oblivious. I should have been more prepared and had my camera out for videotaping it, but this time she did it at such a random moment that I didn't get a chance to take a video of it. This is the outcome of the anti-white world we live in. Anyways, this is even more reason why I am thankful for you guys. You are my family, my only family. Well, God bless you, brother, and we are delighted to have you in this community. You're magnificent, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and your actions that you were sharing in the live chat. Storm Watcher says, Alinsky's rules for radicals, number 6, your tactics must be enjoyable for your people. Edgy memeing is very enjoyable. So I responded to this. I'll share what I responded. Running out of time, though. I wrote here, what percentage of the people, and let me just say, so Storm Watcher, to be fair, and I'm giving the most charitable interpretation of what he wrote here, is in response to me pointing out that all of these people who were saying, oh, the edgy memes. No, they're not. There's nothing edgy about talking about harming groups of people for their race. That's sickening. There's nothing edgy. There's nothing edgy about putting up some sort of symbolism that is considered evil by all those millions of brothers and sisters that we got to save before we run out of time. That's not edgy. That's just stupid. And so I have said, others have said, people have to stop doing this. Don't play the villain in their story. And it's going to come back and harm you. Well, it has in so many trials over the decades that I've been in white sympathetic sphere. And now it just did again in Charlottesville. They went back and they said, look at what these people write. Look at the pictures they've shown. Look at the symbols they put up in these memes. And the jury looked at that garbage and said, okay, 500,000. They'll never own anything in their lives. They're bankrupted for life. 500,000 to that person, 500,000 to that one, 1 million for that group. So congratulations to everybody who was smart enough to hear, or either they thought of it on their own or they heard the warnings that we shared here and they said, whoa, that makes sense. I'm not going to do that anymore. I hope we don't need, how many more trials do we need? How many more lives do we have to have ruined before people start listening to reason, logic, and evidence? So Stormwatcher is saying in response that speaking in with these disgusting memes and trying to frighten people and that sort of thing, that's fun. Edgy memeing is fun. And even Alinsky, now I don't know why Stormwatcher would necessarily quote Alinsky, but so be it. Quotes Alinsky and says, it's got to be enjoyable. What their actions have to be enjoyable. Their activism has to be enjoyable. But this is such, and I don't mean this for Stormwatcher himself. I mean, generally speaking, this is a midwit take par excellence. Because, and then hopefully I'll just be able to sum up with what I wrote. What percentage of the people enjoy what activity? And what caliber of people enjoy said activity are the real questions. These questions are more important than if the activists are having fun. So let's say you wanted to achieve X, and so you went to the population and you found a group of people that really enjoyed, for their activism, butchering baby animals in front of people for the horror it caused them. Well, it's a lot of fun. Alinsky said, Rule 6, activism, it's got to be fun. What kind of people, how many people would that be? What percentage? And what kind of people would be drawn to that fun? So you people go around and they throw these sorts of things out there like, oh, I've just trumped you. And you just, no, Stormwatcher, no. I'll take it from here. Donning Armor wants to call in. So you are number 1 on the list, brother. Sir Bonce says, Jason, the other guys do some great work. However, you are 100% correct. Why play the villain in the anti-white narrative? That's the most truthful statement, I think. The most reasonable, not to mention the edgy stuff, is what actually keeps white people who are on the fence away from this movement. I know you are busy. I would love to send you an email. Please do. I will take a look at it. Buddy Duddyful says the psychological trauma that Kyle experienced that night in Kenosha, that alone would be difficult for the strongest person to deal with. Not only coping with the PTSD, but also the trauma of being arrested for murder and the uncertainty of possibility spending his entire life in prison. All of the while slandered by the regime's media with ugly anti-white slurs and in the court of public opinion. Thank God he was acquitted and regained his freedom. But really, what kind of future does Kyle have for himself in anti-white America 2021? He's a pariah, an outcast. Very well said, and thank you for caring about that young man. Smock says here, conservatives really are just as much our enemy as leftists, anti-whites. They just know how to wear masks and hide their true beliefs and intentions. So really what you're talking about here, Smock, is anti-whites who call themselves conservatives and anti-whites who call themselves liberals. With leftists, you know what you're getting. But conservatives are like wolves in sheep clothing. They conceal themselves and don't realize that these people you think are on your side are actually working against you. So you give them the benefit of the doubt. It's time for that benefit of the doubt to be to deplete, to get rid of it. Yeah, exactly, Smock. They've run out of it. And really, these Republicans, these conservative leaders that act like they're on our side, but then facilitate anti-white crimes committed against us, white erasure, etc. They're anti-whites. They just call themselves conservatives. Thank you. The Victorian time traveler says, I used to think that false history was the cause and cornerstone of anti-whiteism. No, anti-whiteism is the cause and cornerstone of anti-whiteism. I will say that changing your way of thinking is painful. At least it was for me. I could feel the neurons in my brain rewiring themselves, if that makes any sense. Strangely, it was the same way I felt when I went from being a vague to being an ant-gnat. I will admit that I did feel inexplicably angry at Jason when I first started listening, reading Going Free. I had gained visions of society that could be created where white children could be raised in freedom and safety. And here was another guy saying that was impossible, mocking me for engaging in historical revisionism, something I had sacrificed most of my personal relationships for because I believed that it was the cornerstone of what I would now call anti-whiteism, but at the time I referred to as white genocide. You know, just typing this makes me realize how crazy I must have sounded. You know what it's like admitting that you're wrong? If you ever had a dislocated bone, you will be in intense pain. And worse, you have this awful sense of wrongness. You know that popping it back in place is going to feel absolutely horrible. And part of you doesn't want to do it. Part of you would rather just stay jacked up the rest of your life, so that you don't have to face the awful slide, shift, grind, pop. I think what it really boils down to is humility. You not only have to admit that you were wrong, but you have to accept the realization that what you were doing was actually counterproductive. I was doing a massive disservice to the people that I love and care about. I mean, just today I picked up my father's mail and insulin because he's out of town, and my youngest sister would not unlock the door and let me in my dad's house. She just stood there and glared daggers at me from behind the sliding glass door. That's not actually entirely my fault. She has a problem too. I don't mean to rant. It's just that might be a window into what's going on inside these people's heads. Thank you so much for that testimonial. It is extremely and powerful. You are one of so many now who have come to this community and who have a trail of ruined relationships behind you because you decided to go ant-nat, or you decided to play the antagonist in the anti-white narrative in some way. So thank you so much for sharing that, because that will prevent others from making that mistake, or making it as largely as you did. Maybe they'll ruin fewer relationships, and maybe they'll make things not as hard for our people instead of sticking with it and confirming the anti-white narrative. John writes here, I don't understand the rage about not getting credit for people using anti-white, etc. Who cares? He says, this isn't about egos or various groups. What matters is that people are using it. It's spreading. The message is getting out there. You don't get people to abandon failed methods by yelling and screaming about it and appearing unhinged. You do it by presenting a better alternative which actually works, which going free does. Well, I will say, and thank you, John, for the respectful criticism. And I definitely do. I have room for improvement when I'm upset, when I'm angry over people ignoring the work that we are doing. Now, you have two things that you're kind of conflating there a little bit. The one is that, you hear me say it all the time, we need to push these concepts out into the world. Our brothers and sisters on the macro scale might never know where they came from, and that's fine. We need to save our people. That I want. That is the process. That's what we've been engaged in. That's what I've been doing for so many years. When it comes to the white sympathetic sphere, and people know damn well and good what we've been working on, and they've been pushing against it. They've been doing everything they could to stop it, or ignoring it, or blacklisting me. Or when people say, what about having that Jason guy come and speak? He's got some good ideas. No, not going to have him speak because he doesn't like playing the villain or whatever. We're not going to let anybody hear what he has to say. These concepts work. That means that those people are getting in the way. Then, when they begin using some of these concepts, and they'll be picking up more, and they deny where they came from, that is a grievous insult that further prevents people from coming to the source of where they can be truly healed. So effectively, what infuriates me is these people who, number one, for example, when it comes to, let's say, anti-white, they said, no, you can't call them that. It's too simple. It's too plain. Nobody will get it. All the excuses that they said. No, they're Marxists. They're communists. They're they're feminist second way. They're whatever they are. They're Bolsheviks. We got to call them all these things. For all the different arguments, they pushed back. And I used reason, logic, and evidence. And then, instead of coming to me and saying, you were right, brother, and actually you were right, it works, and I'm going to start using it. They just start using it and then say to all of they take one of our successful tools, or two of them, and they'll be taking more and more, and then they thieve them, and it's theft. Just listen, because then they take it and they try to incorporate it in their own mess of what they're doing that is detrimental for our people. They think that they're just going to pick and choose a thing here or a thing there. They'll start using it in their mess, and they think they're going to come out ahead somehow by doing that. They prevent people then from finding their way, people in the white sympathetic sphere, from finding their way to the rest of Eden, from finding their way to the rest of what works, from finding their way to the rest of the prohibitions, for example, on behavior and speech and etc. appearance that undermines our efforts to recapture our destiny in a white positive way. That is why I get angry about it. So if somebody out in the general population uses anti-whiteism, I am spiking a football. I'm having a joy at that. If somebody in the white sympathetic sphere, I've been pushing for all these years, and what they're jealously say, I'll just steal that thing or this thing, bring it into what I'm doing, And I'm not going to tell anybody where that came from because I'm jealously hoarding these people. And what I'm doing that doesn't work, that pisses me off to all hell, because we don't have an infinite number of people. We need folks to hear what's going on. And if they ostensibly want the same objective, which is to recapture our destiny, then they should be telling people about what's working. What kind of an environment is it where they say nothing about what's working? So I get what you're saying. I get your criticism. And I hope you now see what I'm saying, where the big difference lies. West writes here, I see the struggle with these ants IRL, because I have a few buddies who are hard-boiled ants. This is antique nationalists. I have on some level damaged my reputation with them by insisting this is the correct path. But I am willing to take the hit because this is about saving our folk, not my aggrandizement. Plus, if I want more aggrandizing, I have routes I have created on my own. In a way, this is my charity work in this life. Then again, who knows? Because my self-interest is tied to the general welfare of my folk. Go free of the nitwittery. Get over this concern for ant-nat groupthink. Be strong enough to stand against stupid ideas, even when it's the cool kids espousing them, and poke these sacred cows that are peculiar to these spheres. Thank you, West, for that. I appreciate it. Promethean Epoch writes, fantastic midweek stream that I managed to catch live. I am, Sake is on Entropy. Okay, I hope I can remember that. So Promethean Epoch, because old username. I meant to say with limited characters is that it's strange how Mr. Penovich, Enoch, managed to get off from the charges from Charlottesville, and how it's suspicious that despite TRS losing all of its payment processors, they can still somehow afford to pay 5 people's salaries, at least, in parentheses, he writes. Maybe it's double with a large dedicated audience paying by money order or crypto. But to me personally, it's suspect. Maybe my suspicions are unfounded. Only time will tell. Well, thank you, Promethean Epoch, for letting me know that you are Sakis. I hope I remember. Please remind me again. But thank you for that. Helig says, a pleasant time spent with you, sir. Your calm approach to explaining the situation to us and educating from your experience is so valuable. Thank you for your presence. It's always well spent. Well, thank you so very much. I'm not sure if your name, if it's male or female. I apologize, but thank you so very much. Those are wonderful words. We have, let's see, is it Naminya? Writes, hello, Jason. Thank you for what you do. Where are we on time? Oh, my gosh. Well, we're going to have to take a phone call. What should I do? I think I'll just take the phone call because we've got to roll. And then we will save these for next week. Very quickly, though, let's see. Okay, we're blank over here. And let's see if we're blank here. This is what happens when you're having fun. The time flies. Got to get back to work, folks. But we're going to place a quick call. And I know we'll have Mr. V. I actually missed a phone call that I was supposed to make with Mr. V. I had some things come up. But we'll have Mr. V back. I'm sure he'll be on again next week. He's doing amazing work. We had a long phone call on the process that he's creating for vetting. And he's reaching out to other GFCs, going free clubs. And join one, folks. Start one. If you build it and behave in accordance with what's taught at Going Free, then you will be recognized as a legitimate Going Free club, and that will carry with it perquisites in the future. So we're looking to make that happen. Please, let's get on this. Let's start making it happen. We have to reach our brothers and sisters, and you can do anything you want with these. You go, you have you have family outings. You could have, it could be a bunch of guys. You know, just has to be done with an accord to all white positivity. You're using the lexicon. You could be distributing leaflets. You could be teaching the different families that come together. You could be teaching their kids on camping outings, or you go to the opera, or whatever it might be. But we want to see these things growing and starting, and we're going to talk more about them in the future. But for now, we're going to place a quick call over to donning armor so we can have a call during this show. Here it comes.
Hello?
There he is, brother. Hear you loud and
How you
clear.
doing?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, brother. I hope you're doing well.
I am. Fantastic. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to just emphasize, just because Wardruna, they speak in various European dialects, but it is a fusion of modern music with ancient European music. So it is a celebration of our history. I highly recommend that you check out Krigsgalder if you want to get pumped up, because that will do the trick. Trust me. It will awaken that Faustian spirit that is within all of us. When I was younger, the first CD that I ever had was Kill 'Em All by Metallica.
Oh, yeah, of course. I remember that.
And then as I grew up and, started listening to various bands, and then Slipknot. I don't know if you're familiar with Slipknot, are you?
No, I don't think I. No.
Okay. That'll get the blood pumping. And then I went downhill. As I've said before, I went very far downhill. I started listening to rap music and stuff like that, and venturing off into different areas.
Right.
But I highly recommend you listen to Wardruna. And if you, I understand that the algorithm doesn't work well for white positives, but it works well in music. So if you start looking into their stuff, it will start recommending other white positive bands. There's various bands. You've been talking about bands to get young men pumped up.
Right.
But just going down that path, excuse me, it will start to recommend various other groups and artists. They're out there. We just don't know about them. When I started looking into it, because I was trying to educate myself on paganism, I don't really have any take on anything. I respect everybody despite, their religious convictions or what say you.
Mm-hmm.
However, the more that I looked into it, the more that was recommended to me, the more interested I became. And it is white positive. And I not only do I get pumped up and I feel like kick ass, like let's get it,
Yeah.
It also it awakens something deep inside you. It reminds you, because we've all forgotten, we do have an ancient past and a culture.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something to be admired and to love about yourself. And I think that that's been forgotten in so many. Really quick, I'll tie it in, and then I'll let you go, because I know that you got to go. As frustrating as it can be, and it is frustrating, we have to realize the damage that has been done to our people, to our folk.
Yeah.
And I know it's easy to fall into these spaces, these gaps where you just, Antifa, you want to hate them or whatever. Antifa is largely white.
Yeah.
These are kids that have been indoctrinated. Well, they're not necessarily kids, but they're young, white boys and girls, men and women that have been indoctrinated to hate themselves. And now they've fallen into this nonsense. Rather than going from the left versus right, or communism versus some other kind of government structure, we need to realize that this was largely done to them. They didn't do it themselves. It was done to them through indoctrination and brainwashing. And one last thing, and then I'll leave it there and I'll let you go, brother. There is a gentleman in the chat room. I believe his name was Rashid the Camel, the Arab.
Okay.
And I love seeing non-whites come into this room because they can actually see that this isn't a movement of hatred or animosity to any other group of people. As you say, anyone with immutable characteristics. We don't do that stuff here.
Right.
And that's why I've dropped pretty much every other channel. I listen to you and a few others. This is just us saying it's okay for us to love ourselves.
Right.
So that approach and the techniques that you use, I adopt many of them. I know I'm not a contributor. I don't, I can't help monetarily, but I do share your content. I do share it with the people that I know and the people that I meet when I, go outside, go to work, go to whatever it is. I openly discuss a lot of the things that you've taught me, and it is a better technique than wearing khakis and carrying tiki torches, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
And so, yeah, that's about it, man. That's all I had to say to you.
Well, that's a great testimonial. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for telling me about the band, and I'll check that out, that music out as well.
Check out Craig's Galder.
Okay.
That will pump you up. Trust me. Oh, just a quick little detail. Everything about the band is as about unique to Indo-Europe as you can possibly get.
Okay.
Their drum, all of their instruments, they've made themselves from techniques used 1,000 years ago. Horse skin, cowhide, everything is authentic. I think they even use human bones. I believe somebody donated their bones so that they could tap them and play instruments with them. It's about the attire that they wear, the lyrics that they put into their songs. They switch up between various European languages as well as English, and they are translated from actual archaeological digs of runic signs and inscriptions on stones. So this is our history.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing to listen to. It can be a spiritual experience. It can also be a pump you the heck up experience. And trust me, if you listen to Craig's Galder, man, you're going to be going to war with Antiwhitism. So
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much, man. You're the best. And you can call in anytime you want, folks. That's the great Downing armor. Promethean hails to you, brother.
Much love to everybody out there.
All right. Bye-bye. That was great. Yeah, he's I saw Fernald said something about the guy's got a cool voice. He absolutely does. One of the best voices in the entire white sympathetic sphere, without question. From the very first time I heard him, that was one of the thoughts that came right to me. We've got a couple things. Dude Bro Moment, just financially gifted $25 US. Let's get a round of raucous emojis for Dude Bro Moment, financially gifting $25 US, and writes here for White Wellbeing. Well, thank you so very much. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen your name before, so thank you very much if that's your first financial gift to White Wellbeing. Really appreciate it. And we had Fornell send me a tweet from Tulsi Gabbard, who just said, Mayor Lightfoot's blatant anti-white racism, so she's close there, is abhorrent. I call upon President Biden, Kamala Harris, and other leaders of the country of all races to join me in calling for Mayor Lightfoot's resignation. Our leaders must condemn all, unfortunately, she says, racism, including anti-white. So if you want to get on to Twitter, Tulsi Gabbard, you could just say, encourage her, hey, drop the racism, use anti-white and anti-whiteism. And if we get enough folks who go over there and politely say, you can make this a lot more powerful by just dropping that word racist, because it doesn't work in any direction except to harm white people, then maybe she'll come around and she'll end up empowering who knows how many folks that she'll end up getting to. But this is a great example of the work. And this is the other thing that I failed to mention during the moments, because I'm rushing with the criticism, is that when anti-white, anti-whiteism, Western kind, white erasure, these things are being used by more and more people. And we have teams targeting, we have individuals going out, they know exactly what to do. We are specifically, and have for many years, and I have been for even more years than that, specifically going out, trying to get people to use, and now people are using these things, and it's a great success, right? And instead of these individuals, we're just saying, well, if they're using it, then who cares? Those individuals who fought me all along and said, no, it's not gonna, none of that'll work, sounds ridiculous and whatever, they now say, oh, they've been saying it all along. They've been saying it all along. So there's just, this is the low class scum. And instead of saying, wow, something worked on the societal level from the white sympathetic sphere, what community is doing this? Instead of saying that, they're trying to dismiss. They did nothing. They did nothing over there. These people could actually be saying, Tulsi Gabbard could actually say Jason Köhne, and these jerks would still say, I did nothing. Did nothing. That's been around forever. Whatever. The same folks. And you have to also understand the history of all of the arguments, all of the, the countless debates that I won and then was punished for winning by these people. We have over on Odysee, right before we get out of here, this is Question Everything, has financially gifted 25 library tokens, which is the cryptocurrency over there. Thank you very much. And has written, Hail, brother. My wife passed away on Tuesday, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to white flight. I'm just lost. Anyway, it's good to see you today. I condole with you. I'm very sorry to hear about your loss. She obviously was extremely important to you. And she's even though you're not going to be able to hold that conversation, she's still with you, even right now. And there's so many ways of looking at it that puts her right by your side, no matter where you go. So I'm very sorry this happened to you. Regrettably, everything that has a beginning has an end. And so our lives, our relationships, and be glad that you got the time that you had with her. And always, folks, remember that that's why, it's one of the main reasons why we want to make good memories in our lives. And so I'm really sorry, folks. I'm sending you much, brother, Question Everything. I'm sending you much love and positive energy. And I know you're going to recover from this. And this is the place to be, in white positivity. You're not going to get better by focusing a bunch of anger on other groups of people. It's going to be on the love and the memory you build of your wife. And, one of the things you could do that I know I have done for people that we have lost has always been to think of them in some of my service to white well-being, because I know by serving the spirit of the West, I'm serving those loved ones, those people who were important. So it's a gift that you can give for the rest of your life. And thank you so much. I'm really sorry that happened. And we have the European Spear was saying the song that we play at the beginning by Pine Tree Riots is a great badass song. It absolutely is. That is, but see what I'm thinking about is, and that by itself, like if there was an album and you had like that song, but then you had other songs that had, and again, I keep going back to, the beat has attitude when you can imagine it playing in the background when the baddest ass guy walks into the room. When that guy walks into the room and that beat, that background track is rolling, it's perfect. You could You could imagine bringing the baddest ass guy into the room and then take other types of songs that we might think are great, but you put that in the background and you're like, no, that doesn't work at all. So, and this, what Donning Armour is talking about, I definitely want to check it out. Actually, I think somebody might have sent me some of their stuff before. And it sounds really primal and cool, but it's got to be also applicable to today, right? The listener has to be able, they got to be talking about walking into that classroom, walking into that boardroom and being the baddest ass guy, walking into that bar, and you're the baddest, you're the best, you have the most confidence, you're the bravest because you're a man of the West. That is the kind of soundtrack we need. It can't just be a lot of thumping. It can't just be it's got to be applicable to today. And I know we can do it. We've got many champs. It's great to be with you all again. Look at all these wonderful people. That had joined us today in this gathering. These moments are always magnificent. And let's always come together for each other, especially when we're struggling. We've had some challenges, things like losing loved ones. And we all recently lost Fraulein Dresden, of course. And we're going to have challenges like this. We'll have challenges. We'll have challenges that are natural. We'll have challenges that could have been prevented. We'll have challenges that the anti-whites will cause. They will intentionally do things that undermine our efforts in service to white well-being. We need, and they'll do things, I should add, and they'll permit things in society that are grievously unfair, that are infuriating. We need to take the anger that we feel from these events, the rage that we feel from these events, and we need to pair it. This is what has worked for me, to join it to the love for our people. The love is the long distance run. It's not going anywhere. The rage over injustice, over death, over whatever it might be, those are the short sprints. Those are great uses of energy if you take it and you pair it with the love and you say to yourself, what can I do with all this that I'm so angry about to make a difference in the world? What can I do to actually get back at the anti-whites? Marching around the house and getting together with the buddies and talking about how bad it is and how God blanket and something's going to happen. One of these days it's going to pop off. You know how many times I've heard people say that and they're doing nothing. They're doing nothing. It's not bad. That's where you've been. It's bad if you stay there. You can make the decision to take that energy, and especially if you get with your buddies and you all say, my God, they mowed them down, for God's sake. How much more of this are people going to take? And the next thought should be 1,000 leaflets, 2,000 leaflets. Let's build a program that will automatically, email or automatically post and get us into, I'm going to make 10 more accounts to post, and let's find big content creators that we can begin to influence the language, the concepts that they use. Use that energy, use that rage, pair it with the love. And the only other thing that's left for you then, when you think about the work that you're doing, is to drop the idea of glory for Westmen, men, women, and children, being something that has to be in a certain loss, a guaranteed loss where you die in the end and you're just waiting for that. That can be glorious, but it's one of many, and there is no excuse at this point for failure. You're not going to be able to look into the eyes of white grandchildren and great-grandchildren and say, well, let me tell you why we lost, and that's why you all are being butchered today. That's not going to be good enough. Go out there and strive for glory the way we can strive for it today, the effective way, by getting these concepts everywhere you can while you can, even as they're locking everything down with one excuse after another. Because there's one pair of eyes that you're going to have to answer to. And it's going to be some young white person looking at you with that searching glance. What did you do? You want to be able to say, we won. We recaptured our destiny. And here's how we did it.